Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Broccoli Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What if Deku had mind puppeting skills? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Quirkless. Midoriya rode home from the doctor's office in his mom's car. He couldn't bring himself to speak to her. The silence was stifling. The doctor had a blank, apathetic expression on his face as he gave Midoriya and his mom the news. With just a single word, he completely shattered Midoriya's existence. Quirkless. Everyone he knew had a quirk at this point. They were normally used in daily life. Midoriya had never even met a quirkless person before. Hell, even his parents had quirks. His mom could make things fly around in the air, and his dad could breathe fire. Why wasn't he left with one of those? Izuku, sweetie, we're home. His mom's voice breaks him out of his stupor. Silently, he climbed out of the door and walked into the house. It was colder than it should have been. How about I make us some katsudon for dinner? His mom prompted. He could tell that her smile was strained, if only barely. To anyone else it would have seemed warm and kind, but Midoriya knew what her real smiles looked like. He could see her lips quiver as she forced the brave face. That sounds good, he said without meeting her eyes. It took all of his effort to keep his voice steady. If he looked up into what he was sure is pity in her eyes, he wouldn't be able to hold the floodgates back. He walked back to his room. All Might's smile stared into him. He wanted that so badly, to stare evil down with a bold smile, to protect innocent lives, to be a symbol people could look up to be a hero. But how could he be a hero without a quirk? Every hero he saw all had amazing powers, especially All Might. He wasn't sure when, but tears had started to fall from his face. He could never be a hero. Not like All Might, who could save hundreds, always with a smile. Midoriya took the poster down. He did his best not to tear it. Right now, the smile hurt to look at, just like his mom's. He wiped his face with his sleeve, but the tears wouldn't stop. Letting out a sob, he curled up onto the ground. Maybe the empty pain in his chest would subside if he cried it out. This was how Inko found her son, curled up and crying around an All Might poster. She wrapped her arms around her son's small frame. She cried out, "Oh, Izuku! It's all right, baby. Everything is going to be fine." She rocked back and forth as Midoriya sobbed into her shoulder. A few minutes later, the tears finally began to run dry on his face, but his breathing remained ragged. She looked down at him with soft eyes. "I've made dinner. Are you hungry?" Midoriya nodded his head. His face was raw and eyes puffy. The two of them ate dinner in silence. Her son never even spared her a glance. His face remained blank. It broke her heart to see him like this. Midoriya knocked over his All Might figurine onto the ground. Without a thought, Inko pulled it back up to the table with her quirk. Her son's expression morphed as he watched the figurine ascend. There were so many emotions in that one look, most notably envy and grief. Midoriya finished his meal and left without a word. "Izuku, would you like dessert?" She tried, anything to get him to give her a smile, but Midoriya did not answer. The door to his room shut with a resounding clang. She finished her own katsudon and took the dishes over to the sink. As she reached for the faucet, her arm knocked over an empty cup onto the floor. She subconsciously took hold of the cup with her quirk. Inko glanced down at the cup, now hovering in the air. Her eyes widened, and a sudden flash of guilt made her drop the cup again. Before it could roll away, she bent down and picked it up. She might not be able to give her son a quirk, but she could still show him support. By the time she was finished cleaning up, the clock read 9. It was an hour after her son's curfew, but she could still hear noises coming from his room. She cracked open the door to see her son at the computer watching that same video of All Might. Noticing her presence, her son slowly turned around. There was a smile on his face, but not the one she wanted to see. It shook as he withheld the tears pooling in his eye. "Heroes are so cool, Mom. I can still be one too, right?" His voice was so soft, she could just barely hear it over All Might's signature catchphrase. Her heart broke over the way it shook. "Izuku," she breathed, "I'm so sorry." She cried out. She felt her son's tears roll over her shoulder and soon she was crying too. He wasn't sobbing anymore, just staring off into space. What she was sorry for, she wasn't quite sure. She was sorry that he was in this condition in the first place. She was sorry he could no longer be a hero. She was sorry he would have to watch all of his friends develop their quirks while he was left behind. When Midoriya stopped crying, she carried him to his bed and turned off the computer. She climbed into her own bed and hoped that she could help him through this development. Midoriya walked underneath the bridge as he came home from school. Kaken's words had hurt him. At one point, Midoriya was sure the two of them were friends, yet now they had stopped being so. All Midoriya was to Kaken was stupid, useless Deku. Midoriya took in a deep breath. He would show them all. Just because he was quirkless didn't mean he was useless. A noise from the drain startled him out of his inner monologue. He turned around to his growing terror as a mass of mud rose out of the sewer. Frightened, Midoriya began to run away from the monster, but slimy entrails took hold of his ankles and pulled into it. The monster was saying something to him, but he couldn't hear it over the beating of his own heart. The mud slid down his throat. Midoriya clawed uselessly at the monster to no avail. Darkness began to fog his peripherals. He was going to die. Everyone would read in the news about the poor, helpless quirkless kid that couldn't do anything to save himself. The darkness grew bigger. Midoriya wished he could have said goodbye to his mom. At the very end of consciousness, he heard something. He'd recognize those words anywhere. "It is okay, for I am here." In a second, the pressure in his throat was gone, replaced with sweet air. Just as his vision let out, Midoriya could see his idol standing before him as he faced down the monster. Toshinori cleaned up what was left of the villain into soda bottles. He signed. In his prime, he'd have taken the villain down long before it'd have ever gotten hold of a civilian. A child, no less. Said child was still lying unconscious on the ground. He'd have to wait for the kid to wake up before he could leave. He walked over to the boy, intending to shake him awake when something catches his eye. On the ground lie a journal with the title Hero Analysis for the Future No. Huh, so this kid wanted to be a hero. He flipped the book open and skimmed it. The notes were very detailed. The kid had obviously put a lot of thought into them. He found his own page in the journal. Sightings of All Might are generally only once a day. This could mean that his quirk uses a lot of energy and puts him out of commission every time he uses it. Right now he likely only has enough energy for a couple hours of use. His main tactic is overpowering the enemy with sheer force to minimize use of this energy. Despite his inability to use the quirk 24/7, he seems to have gotten stronger over the years. It's like his quirk gains more strength the more he uses it. The only weakness I can see is him overusing his quirk and running out of energy. Toshinori blinked slowly. That was surprisingly spot on. There was no way for the boy to know about One for All, but what he could put together on his own was very accurate. Toshinori spots a pencil by the kid's bag. He signed the journal and left his own note in the margin. Toshinori looked over at the sound of a groan. The boy had woken up. "Oh, thank God you are all right. I'm sorry you had to get involved with that villain." He smiled. "Luckily, I was able to trap him in these bottles." Toshinori showed him the soda bottles that currently held a greenish goop inside. Midoriya could only stare up with a dazed look in his eyes. He was definitely a fan. Toshinori looked down at his watch. His time was almost up. He had wanted to ask the boy about his notes. "It seems I have lost track of time. I best be on my way now." He started to walk away. The kid seemed to break out of his daze and began to panic. "Wait!" Toshinori turned around as the boy grabbed his journal and promptly screeched, "All Might's autograph." The boy seemed so elated, Toshinori couldn't help but smile. "Haha, anything for a fan. Although, I really do have to head out now. Thank you for your support." Before the kid could react, Toshinori was already jumping away. Midoriya stared up at the dot in the air that was All Might. The man had left as quickly as he had came, leaving Midoriya in a daze. That just happened. All Might saved him. They always say that you should never meet your idols, but All Might was everything that Midoriya ever imagined. Kaken will be so jealous when he hears about it, him being just as much of an All Might fan as Midoriya. Midoriya struggled to his shaky feet. He'd better get moving now, otherwise his mom would worry for his well-being. He crossed under the bridge, steering clear of the residual gunk. Life carried on as usual, like All Might and the villain had never even shown up. Midoriya strolled up to his house's front door. "Mom, I'm home," he shouted as he kicks off his shoes. "Hi Izuku. I'm over here watching that crime show you like." Midoriya walked over to his mom who was nursing a bowl of over-salted popcorn by the TV. His mom smiled up at him. "How was your day, Izuku? You came home a bit late today. Did Katsuki-kun keep you?" "What? No, I came right home, Mom. Kaken didn't do anything." "Izu, honey, your uniform is singed and your hero journal is fried. You honestly can't think I would believe that, right?" The smile had long since fallen from his mom's face, replaced with a worried frown. Midoriya was half tempted to tell her what Kaken had told him to do, but bit back the words. That wasn't his fault. There was a villain attack that happened on the way home. It started a small fire and my journal was knocked into it. It wasn't a complete lie. But of course, Midoriya had to have gotten his observant nature from somewhere. His mom was staring him down, and her frown was still present. Looking down, she sighed. "Please be careful next time. You know I don't like those villain fights." Yes, she definitely doesn't believe him. At least he wouldn't have to explain meeting All Might. Would you like to catch the end of the show? They've already figured out the criminal though, so you might not enjoy it. "That's okay, Mom. I have homework that I'd like to finish now." The tension left Midoriya as his mom's smile reappears. Midoriya walks back to his room and shuts the door. Tossing his bag on his bed, he made his way over to the worn-out desktop. His mom didn't have enough money to buy him a new one, but it's not like this one can't do its job. The research paper wasn't due till the end of the marking PRD, but he wanted to find good sources now. He glanced over to his damaged journal. Of course it had to have opened onto All Might's autograph. But now that he wasn't in complete shock, he noticed a script underneath it. The letters were slanted to the right, unlike his own handwriting. His eyes widened. All Might left him a note. "I'm sorry to make my stay so brief. Had you been conscious, I would have stayed to chat. Your notes are very detailed and you seem to understand even the minute points of my and my colleagues' quirks. It is quite an impressive feat. I'm sure some of them would use your ideas. I wish you good luck on your journey to becoming a hero." Midoriya was shaking in his seat. All Might believed in him. Maybe he really could do this. Maybe he could be a hero. And yet, there was no way Midoriya could pass a test meant for flashy hero quirks. It was like a race through a pitch-black cave without a light while everyone else had industrial-grade spotlights. Going back to the computer, Midoriya X'd out of his tabs. The research paper could wait. The UE entrance exam had been the same for years, otherwise the changes would have made news headlines. If he started preparing for it now, it might just give him enough time to be ready. He pulled up a frequently asked questions forum on how UE's entrance exam functions. What is the entrance exam? The exam is broken up into 3 parts: physical, written, and course custom. These tests are designed to be difficult, so only those who can handle the course load are chosen. What is the written portion? The written exam is broken down into 3 parts: a series of multiple-choice questions, short answer questions, and an essay at the end. Incorrect answers do not deduct points, so it is advisable to answer all of them, even if it is just a guess. What is the physical portion? The physical is arguably the toughest part of the exam. Everyone that takes the exam will be put in a constructed cityscape and will have to destroy as many robot villains as possible. These robots are categorized into their point values: 0, 1, 2, and 3. What is the course custom? There are 4 courses at UE. Each course has a custom exam for students who wish to take that particular course. They are as follows: Hero course, quirk demonstration, general education, a pre-written essay, support course, portfolio of designs, business, a pre-written essay. Demonstration done in tandem to physical. Essay prompts can be found here. Midoriya let out a sigh. Of course they're going to score quirks. Studying would help him a lot in the written, but there were only so many points. He'd never make it into the hero course. He scrolled through some more questions, But the just confirmed what he already knew. The physical course had a threshold for points and he would never meet it given his current state. He was about to rest in defeat when one of the questions catches his eye. What is general education? Gen Ed has a bad reputation for being the hero reject course. While it is true that general education students often score lower than those in the hero course, the class is just as, if not more, rigorous as the hero course. They are expected to finish their workload in a timely manner without dealing with hero work conflicts. Students who graduated this class generally go on to prestigious careers. It is also possible for a student to transfer from Gen Ed to the hero course, although that requires extreme dedication. Midoriya gasped. He could transfer into heroics. This is how he'll become a hero. Screw Kaken, screw his teachers, screw this messed up ideal of flashy quirks. He was going to be a hero. He could handle a multiple choice test and an essay. With those taken care of, the only thing left to worry about is the physical. Midoriya walked out of his room. His mom was now over at the kitchen making dinner. Did you finish your homework, dear? Oh, that's not due for a while now. I just wanted to get a head start. You work so hard. Could you pass me the knife? She holds out her hand. Midoriya spots the knife on the other counter. Here it is. He hands over the knife. Mom. Here goes nothing. His mom turns to him. What is it, Izuku? I want to learn self-defense. Inko blinks up at him. Okay, where do you want to learn? Now it was Midoriya's turn to blink. Oh, I haven't gotten that far. More like he didn't think she would be okay with it. Inko sets down the knife. Izuku, as a mom, I will always worry about you. That doesn't mean I don't trust your judgment. If you want to learn self-defense, that is okay by me. She grins at him. Actually, there was this one girl who came by early with flyers to a new dojo in town. Midoriya's eyes lit up. That would be perfect. They have sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I can call to sign you up if you'd like. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much. You don't have to thank me. Now go clean up, dinner will be ready soon. Midoriya ran over to the sink to wash his hands. This was a great idea. Everything was finally working out for him. This was a terrible idea. Nothing was working out for him. Kaken was currently glaring him down. He had almost made it out without aggravating his bombastic friend. But of course, didn't the universe hate him so? You've been giddy as F all day. I can't stand your goddamn muttering. Midoriya backed up slightly, but stopped at the presence of a wall. I'm just happy that's all. Stupid stutter. Kaken didn't look convinced. The boy leaned over Midoriya and growled. Spill. I'm just going to training for the UE exam. He spoke all at once. He really should leave now. You're still trying to get into UE? You useless piece of shit. No amount of training will prepare your quirkless but for that test. Why can't you see that? Stand your ground, Midoriya. His words can't hurt you. He breathed, want to be a hero. Kaken's glare never broke. It felt like he was trying to find something in Midoriya's eyes. Finally he huffed. You know what, I don't give a shit. Don't come crying to me when you fail. You're nowhere near my level. Kaken left the room. Midoriya needed a minute to breath. He hated this feeling of weakness that fills him in Kaken's presence. He can pull himself together. He hasn't before. One shaky foot in front of the other and soon enough he's outside again. Today was Tuesday. His first training lesson at the dojo. The dojo itself wasn't hard to find. The building had a garish pink facade. There were some other teenagers mulling around inside. Some obviously had more training than others by the looks of their stretches. One of them had their legs spread open and reaching forward, while another was doing what looked like a modified lunge. It would be best if he copied their stances, although not completely so he doesn't pull it. Hi there. Midoriya was startled by the sudden voice that he dropped his backpack onto the ground. While he'd been assessing the group, a girl with bright pink hair had come up to him. You look like the intellectual type. Pleased to meet your acquaintance. She said loudly. Oh, I guess I'm smart, how'd you guess? What an outstanding job, Midoriya. You can totally talk to girls. You mutter really loudly. She smiled like that was a compliment. You heard that, whoops, I guess, ha, kill me now. The girl brushed off his awkward commentary and instead launched into her own conversation. My name is Hatsum Mei, but you should probably just call me Mei since my mom is in charge here. Your mom's in charge? Wait, does that mean she's the teacher? Mei nodded. That's so cool. My name's Midoriya Izuku. Alright then Izuku, we're going to be best friends from here on out. Got it? Midoriya gives a sharp nod and is promptly dragged over to an unoccupied corner. Mei was showing him where to stretch when another pink-haired woman came out. Midoriya knew immediately that this was Mei's mom. The similarities were striking. Just looking at the woman, he felt his nerves leave him. She had this calming atmosphere about her. All of his thoughts about Kaken and Yui felt far away. But there was some off-putting about it. The emotion felt unnatural to him. Her eyes were roaming the dojo, yet they never really landed on any one of them. Instead, it looked like she was staring at something just above everyone. It must be her quirk, he decided. She could probably manipulate emotions by looking at whatever she kept staring at. It must be pretty strong to be able to affect an entire room of people, but the drawback to that would be the effectiveness of the emotions, which would explain him feeling odd. The woman looked over to him, but now she was looking at him, rather than over him. In fact, so was everyone else with varying degrees of surprise on their faces. He must have said all that out loud. That was amazing. The woman said, no one has ever figured out my quirk that quickly. In fact, most don't even realize I'm using my quirk. How'd you figure it out? Oh, well, the emotion didn't really feel like my own. You also weren't actually looking at anyone, so I just put 2 and 2 together. You have some pretty good observation skills. She gave the room a big smile. Sorry for using my quirk on you all. There was too much nervous energy. No good for judo. My name is Hatsum Taniko. By now, everyone had gathered around Hatsum Sensei. She was dressed in a white uniform with a black belt. Her hair was longer than Mei's and pulled up into a tight bun. To start off today, we'll do introductions. Since we're on the topic of quirks, we'll go with that. Say your name, your quirk, and something unique about your personality. Then you can come up and grab your jidoji. I'll introduce myself first. You guys already know my name. My quirk is empathy and I enjoy engineering. Hatsum Sensei pointed to a boy who then introduced himself. Midoriya probably would have listened, but he was too busy panicking over what he should say. Would Hatsum even teach a quirkless kid? My name is Hatsum Mei. Mei Kaye's out beside him. That means he was next. My quirk is zoom. I can look at really far away things or really small things. I also love building robots and devices. Zoom was a pretty useful quirk. It'd really help when working with wires. He took a deep breath. My name is Midoriya Izuku. I like analyzing things. Don't actually have a quirk. There was complete silence. A few kids started to murmur to each other. Midoriya should have expected this to happen. He'd be kicked out for his own safety and would have to start all over again. Well, come on then. He looked up to Hatsum Sensei holding out a jidoji. He stood up and grabbed it. The kids had continued to introduce themselves, but he could still see pointed looks in his direction. The last person grabbed their jidoji, so Hatsum Sensei addressed the group once more. The changing rooms are to the right. Be out here in 5 minutes. Everyone broke into chatter as they went to change. The room was a bit cramped with the benches in the middle, but everyone fit fine. Midoriya made his way over to one of the stalls when someone stopped him. What does a quirkless kid think he can do in a fight? Midoriya turned around to see someone about a year older than him. The boy had a mess of orange and yellow hair all steeped to the left side of his face. There were also spikes all over his arms and face. The first boy to introduce himself. Yahashiatu, quirk, spikes. You should probably just head home to mommy. Leave fighting to the boys that can take care of themselves. The boy smirked. But I can take care of myself. Midoriya replied. Besides, judo has nothing to do with quirks. It was invented long before the first quirk manifested. Traditionally, but the most common kata these days all involve the use of quirks. You'll be left behind. Oh yeah, because spikes are perfect for use in martial arts. Midoriya's eyes widen at what he just said. Yahashi's eyes narrow. My spikes are perfectly fine. They have more use than not having anything. With that, the teen walked away, bumping into his shoulder along the way. Midoriya changed in silence. When everyone was done, they took a seat in front of Hatsum-sensei. All right, everyone. For our first lesson I need a volunteer. How about, she scanned the room. She pointed to Yahashi. Getting up, Yahashi flashed a sententious smirk. In judo, you will throw and be thrown around a lot. Grabbing onto Yahashi's shoulders, she performed a sweeping hip throw and had Yahashi pinned to the ground. The most important thing, she continued, is knowing how to hit the ground without hurting yourself. She got off of Yahashi and offered her hand. He was making his way back to his seat when Hatsum-sensei called out to him. Yahashi, I do not tolerate any form of bullying in this dojo. You'd be wise to watch what you say. Yahashi flushed red. Yes, sensei, he said as he bowed. As Hatsum-sensei turned back to the group, she met Midoriya's eyes and gave him a wink. Now, with that out of the way, I shall demonstrate the different forms of yukimi, the safe ways to break your fall. Hatsum-sensei has them break into pairs to practice falling. Mei makes a beeline for him. Is it true that you're quirkless? She asks. Of course. The one person who he was hoping to be his friend only cared about his lack of quirk. He sighed. Yeah, I'm quirkless. He doesn't look up at her eyes. That's so cool. His head shot up to see a wide, open-mouth grin on Mei's face. I have so many inventions that I've wanted to test out. Since you don't have a quirk, you could theoretically test all of them. You'll help me with my babies, right? Babies? My inventions, dummy. All right. I guess I could test them. Awesome. We'll talk after practice. Midoriya smiled. Was this what having a real friend was like? Talking to Kaken hadn't felt like this since before Kaken's quirk developed. It felt good. Great even. The two of them continued to fall in the way Hatsum-sensei showed them. By the end of the class, Midoriya felt sore all over. At least he hadn't broken anything. You can text me at this number. Try to find time to come over and give my babies a whirl. All right. See you Thursday then. Midoriya asked. I'll be here. Mei smiled. One moment, please Midoriya-kun. Midoriya turned around to see Mei's mom walking over to them. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot during introductions. I've never met a kid your age that was quirkless. Oh no, it's okay. People usually don't realize it. I'm used to it. Hatsum-sensei studies him. She's likely looking at whatever she sees due to her quirk. By any chance, are you interested in becoming a hero? Midoriya's eyes widen in surprise. How did you know? Your journal is poking out of your bag. Midoriya yelps and is quick to zip up his backpack. What school are you planning to attend? Hatsum asked. She looks more serious now. Midoriya's in perpetual surprise. Before today, no one had ever stood up for him, much less take his dreams seriously. I want to go to Yui. Midoriya says. You know Shiketsu has an easier entrance exam, right? He does know that. Yui is the school All Might went to. That's the hero I want to be like. He waited for the ridicule. She would denounce his ability right there and he'd have to go on without any support. Well, that's what his life has been up to this point. Why should anything change now? Midoriya-kun, I want you to listen to me. The Yui entrance exam is made for the best of the best. You are not the best of the best. There it is. He'd been anticipating the words, but actually hearing them hurts so much worse. That doesn't mean you can't become the best of the best. Midoriya's eyes shot up at her words. You seem like the determined kind, Midoriya-kun. Are you willing to put in the effort it takes to be the best of the best? Of course. I would put in twice the effort. I want you to look me in the eyes. And he did. He stared down her lime eyes with his own dream-filled ones. I think you can be a hero, Midoriya-kun. I'll talk with your mom to get you a training schedule. No one had ever told him those words before. He really could do this. Hatsum-sensei and All Might were counting on him. Oh, and Midoriya? What is it? He asked. Hold your head up and keep that smile on your face. Midoriya's lips turned up. He was going to make it into Yui. He was going to save people with a smile. He was going to be a hero. The schedule that Hatsum-sensei had given him was simple. Including class practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, now he was supposed to run 10 miles before and after school. He had fitness training on Mondays and Fridays, and Wednesdays and Saturdays were personal judo lessons. Sundays were his rest days to finish homework. A few weeks into his training and Midoriya was already starting to see definition in his biceps. Before, Midoriya would have considered 30 pounds heavy. Now he could lift 100 pounds without breaking a sweat. Hatsum worked him hard, so this rest day was a gift. Despite being so tired, Midoriya still got up at 6 to do his morning run. Midoriya knows he should be resting after yesterday's spar left him super drained, but he couldn't just sit around. Besides, the extra training will do him good. He had chosen to run around the park near his house. The park trail was exactly 10 miles and the walk to and from his house to get there gave him a few minutes to warm up and cool down. Kakin also hated the park rangers there, so he didn't have to worry about running into the fiery teen. Based on the palmate maple he just passed, Midoriya estimated he was about halfway through the run. He and his mom used to go to the park when he was younger. They would always sit by the maple and enjoy its leaves that remained dark red even in the summer. It was his favorite tree. His little trip down memory lane had unfortunately left him distracted. Of course he would run right into someone. It was just his luck. Falling to ground, Midoriya felt the wind being knocked from his body. Now that he was on the ground, he realized just how tired he was. His legs burned from overuse and his vision couldn't quite focus. Slowly, he got to his feet. "I'm so sorry about that. Are you okay?" he asked the stranger. He had dark blue hair and his glasses were askew. "I'm quite fine. Besides, this was my fault. I was on the phone with my brother and not looking where I was headed. I give you my deepest apologies." Formal, Midoriya thought. "I wasn't looking either, so I'm partially to blame. I must keep going then. Farewell." "Really formal," Midoriya smirked. Midoriya continued his run. He'd probably never see the other again, so he was kind of sad he didn't get a name. His legs continued to protest the running. Maybe he should have taken it easy today. Midoriya had memorized the different landmarks around the park trail. He should be coming up to the bridge in a few seconds. He'd always stop at the bridge to feed the ducks. He slowed down when he saw the dirt transition into wood. Apparently, the ducks had recognized him and were now quacking away. "Be patient, will you?" Midoriya admonished them, but he had a smile on his face. He pulled out his bag and began rooting around for the granola bars. They were somewhere at the bottom, underneath his hero analysis journal and first aid kit. Finally pulling out the bars, he ripped them open and started throwing the chunks to the duck. Midoriya realized how hungry he was as well and took a bite out of one. The ducks made happy quacks. Midoriya smiled and continued to run. He'd need to get home and eat some actual food. Math class was Midoriya's final class of the day. It wasn't his favorite subject, but he found fun in getting to a solution. He never really liked his teacher in this class though, so that could be why he hasn't been enjoying it at all lately. He just wanted the bell to ring so he could go down to see Hatsum-sensei. But no, they had to work on a challenge problem for the next 10 minutes which Midoriya had solved in the first 3 minutes. By the amount of chatter going on in the room, he wasn't the only one. In the meantime, Midoriya pulled out his hero journal. He had some new ideas to help May out and didn't want to forget. He wished May went to his middle school, but she was homeschooled. Having a friend to talk to regularly would have been nice. At the very least, May was always a text away. As if on cue, he felt his phone start buzzing. Hatsum is the best at 1403. Do you know if spiders feel pain? You should put a password on your phone at 1403. Stop breaking into my phone, that's private. Midoriya changed his contacts back for what felt like the gazillionth time. May at 1404. Sport. You never answered my question, BTW. Izuku at 1405. Why would I know? I mean, I'm pretty sure they do. Please don't experiment on spiders, that's mean. May at 1406. I'm not going to experiment on spiders. I can't believe you would accuse me of such a thing. But theoretically, would they feel pain if, say, they were shocked with 100 volts? Izuku at 1408. Stop electrocuting spiders, May. Midoriya chucked to himself. He was interested in this new contraption she'd built. Usually he'd stay with May after training to troubleshoot any of her designs. Midoriya hears the bell ring and quickly puts away his things. He would have run right out the door if his teacher hadn't spoken up. Midoriya-kun, a moment please. His teacher was at his desk viewing his laptop. Midoriya stumbles over, doing his best to avoid eager students trying to leave the classroom. Midoriya-kun, I noticed that you still haven't chosen a real high school to go to yet. But I'm going to UE. His teacher sighed. I said, real, Midoriya-kun. It's nice to have dreams, but there are times when you have to look at the bigger picture. You can't possibly believe you'll get into UE of all schools without a quirk, right? Midoriya closed his eyes. People said this all the time. He had to be real. But now, he could see the light at the end of this tunnel, and nobody, not his teacher, not Kaken, nobody, is going to take it away from him. I mean really, your grades are phenomenal, all as for every class and every grade level. I'm sure a school like Sakura High would be perfect for your exp. With all due respect, sensei, Midoriya interrupted to the surprise on his teacher's face. He's never spoke up before. Yui is real for me. I've had to deal with people telling me I can't be a hero every day of my life since I was diagnosed. I still haven't given up. I won't ever give up. I am going to UE whether or not you think it's appropriate for me. Midoriya took a second to breath, then continued, and when you see me winning at the sports festival next year, I want you to think long and hard about how much better I could have been if you had supported me. With that, Midoriya left the room. His teacher didn't protest. Midoriya didn't regret speaking back to his teacher like he thought he'd be. It actually felt good, finally speaking up. He felt another text come in from May. May at 14:16. Okay, I might have electrocuted a few spiders, but they totally deserved it. Midoriya laughed. What did he ever do to deserve May? Who are you texting? Oh great, Midoriya recognized that voice. Couldn't people just leave him alone today? Was that too much to ask for? There stood one of Kaken's goons. They took everything he said hook, line, and sinker and always took it out on him. I'm texting my friend. Midoriya spoke softly. The confidence he'd felt with his teacher completely evaporated. You shouldn't lie, Midoriya. You don't have friends. He had a devilish smirk on his face. If Bakugo was the bronze, then Kaito was the brains. He never threw a punch at Midoriya, instead preferring to cut him down with words. It worked more often than Midoriya would like to admit. Midoriya walked away with his head low. He just wanted to go to training. That's it. No one would ever be friends with a quirkless nobody like you. Whoever this friend is, they're just lying to make you feel better about yourself. Midoriya kept walking. He could feel tears at the corners of his eyes. May was his friend. She said so before she knew he was quirkless. There was no way she was lying. Hatsum-sensei observed his footing. Adjust your dominant foot. It's bowed too far to the right. Midoriya had been trying to get this move down for the past 3 sessions, but it wasn't clicking. In all the other things he'd been taught, he was able to learn them within the first lesson. This time was different. Alright, why don't we take a break? Midoriya made a noise of protest, but Hatsum-sensei stopped him. You'll never do it right when you're that frustrated. Come over, I'll make us some tea. Midoriya followed her into her apartment. It was connected to the dojo with a traditional shoji-style screen door. He'd been in the apartment many times when May wanted to experiment. The room was small. It had a kotatsu in the middle with red curtains lining the windows. Midoriya sat down at the kotatsu. The room had a traditional theme which Midoriya liked. Hatsum-sensei came out with the tea. Midoriya drank some and felt some tension leave. So, what's got you down, Midoriya-kun? Midoriya casts his eyes down. I can't get the move right. Hatsum-sensei studies him. Or, more precisely, she studies his emotions. It's more than that. Is there something going on at your school? Midoriya stayed silent. Hatsum-sensei sighs. You don't have to tell me about. I just want you to know I'm here for you, okay? Midoriya nods. Hey, sensei, how does your quirk work exactly? I can see people's emotions as auras around them. When I first got my quirk, I asked my mom what they were and she was so confused about these colors I was seeing. Midoriya laughed at that. If I focus on an aura, I can manipulate what it is. My parents thought I'd become a psychologist or something like it. If it's just one person, I can make it a complex emotion, whereas with a group I could only do something simple. That's so cool. Midoriya replied. You're the first person to think so. She smiled at him. There was a loud bang come from the basement. The door opened to Mei covered in soot. Please tell me you didn't explode anything important, Mei. Hatsum-sensei says in her mom voice. Nope. I had blast protection. Mei had a crazed smile on. Midoriya had the sudden urge to run away. He is sadly unable to as Mei's eyes land on his. Oh, little Izuku is done training. Come on, I have a new baby I need to show you. Midoriya looked to Hatsum-sensei for help, but she just smiled at him. Have fun. And then she left. Mei dragged him down into the basement. It was littered with scrap metal and designs. The first time he came down, he tripped over everything as he tried to get to the workbench. He's used to Mei's antics now, so he barely pays any mind to the clutter on the floor. On the table, there lie what appears to be a laser pointer. He picked it up. Despite its small size, it weighed quite a bit. Mei was jumping in excitement. Hit the button on the back. Midoriya pushed the button and is promptly thrown into a wall. His vision spins, and he's pretty sure there shouldn't be two mice in front of him. He takes a deep breath, and his vision goes back to normal. Now he is able to see a fire on the table. It might need a dampener or an arm brace to keep the kickback to a minimum. You think? Midoriya grumbles. What the hell was that? It's my new baby. It's like a laser pointer, but it shoots out electricity instead. Midoriya thinks for a moment. I think an arm brace would be best. Maybe you could build one into a gauntlet and the trigger would be making a fist. Mei gasped. That would be perfect. That would make it easier to add a bigger resistor as well. What if we made interchangeable resistors to change the power output? I think you would need to have set resistor levels and have them rotate into place. Mei smiles at him and starts pulling out materials. She has him come over and pulls out a tape measure. What are you doing? He asks her. Well, duh, I'm taking measurements for your gauntlet. You're the one that's going to use them after all. Mei measures all the components of his arm and hand. She has him work on the resistor loop while she builds the gauntlet. An hour worth of testing and breaking walls elapses, and by the end of it, the two have a pair of custom-made laser gauntlets. Here's the laser sight so you can see what you're going to hit. She points to the red dot on top. When you close your fist, your fingers will pull down on the trigger and the electric beam will come out of here. She points to a dot underneath the first. Midoriya points the sight to one of the targets set up in the basement. He closes his fist. Electricity shoots out and does not hit the target. Instead, the beam hits multiple areas, most of them being scrap metal on the floor. Oh, and circuit breaker on the wall. The lights go out, and the two are plunged into darkness. Mei! Hatsum-sensei calls from upstairs. I'll work on the accuracy later. Mei says before heading to the stairwell. Midoriya takes off the gauntlets and follows. The room upstairs is also dark. Mei's mom stood with her arms crossed. I told you not to break anything important. She says sternly. Actually, you just asked if I did break something important. Hatsum-sensei was not amused. It was my fault, sensei. He blurted. She looked over at him surprised. Midoriya looked down. I hit the circuit breaker. I'm sorry. You may have done the actual breaking, but Mei created what you used to break it. Neither of you is getting off the hook. Midoriya grimaced. I'm going to call the electrician. Midoriya-kun, it's getting late. You should head home. What about the move? Don't sweat it, kid. We'll work more on Saturday. Go home and rest. He nods. Midoriya goes to the dojo to get his belongings. Mei follows. When you visit next time, it should be ready for you. Thanks, Mei. Midoriya can't help but remember what he was told earlier that day. They're just lying to make you feel better about yourself. Hey, Mei. She looks up. We're friends, right? She looks confused for a second. Of course we are. You're the only person I've ever let into my workspace. Midoriya realizes she's never had a friend before him. He was her first friend just like she was his. How could he have ever doubted her? Right, sorry. I just wanted to make sure. Midoriya left the dojo and made his way home. The walk home was brief, only about 10 minutes. The front door is unlocked, so he walks in. Mom, I'm home. Welcome home, Izuku. How was practice? It went well. He lied. That's great. I'll have dinner done in a few. You go work on homework. Midoriya heads over to his room. Luckily, there wasn't much homework due tomorrow. His research paper was pretty much done. It only needs a title and for Midoriya to look for grammatical errors. He did his best to focus, but there was something nagging at the back of his head. Midoriya closed his fist. Hatsum-sensei said they'd work on the move more on Saturday, but he wanted to learn it now. Maybe if he'd practice more now, he could surprise her by being able to do it. Mind set, Midoriya runs out to the front door. Hey Mom, I'm going outside to practice. Wait honey, what about dinner? I'll have it later. You don't have to wait up for me. Alright, be safe, Izuku. Midoriya runs outside to his backyard. There was a large oak tree in the middle that he'd climb on when he was younger. Then Kaken decided to explode the branches. The tree would have burned down if his mom hadn't been there. After that, they were never allowed to play on it. Midoriya walked up to the tree. It wasn't a punching bag, but it'll have to do. Midoriya got into the stance and threw a fist at the bark. Gah! Pain shoots up his arm. He opens and closes his fist. Midoriya grimaces as his knuckles scream in protest. Midoriya takes a deep breath, then throws another punch. This time, the pain isn't as bad. Midoriya smiles. He could master this. Hatsum-sensei would be proud of him. A few more punches later, he could barely feel the pain. That had to mean he was getting stronger. He grinned in excitement. It was actually rather fun. He never understood why people would enjoy hitting things, but now he did. It was so easy just to let out his pent-up frustration. Maybe this is why Kaken would always punch things when he was mad. Letting out a yell, Midoriya spun his hip into a roundhouse kick. His foot connected with one of the low-hanging burnt branch. With a creak, the branch snapped off onto the ground. He stared down at the branch. In his training, he'd gotten a lot stronger. Midoriya had never felt this powerful before. He still had a long way to go, though. The sun was starting to set, so he'd only stay out for a few minutes more. He needed to master this move. Okay, so maybe a few minutes wasn't the best way to describe it. Midoriya ended up staying out for a little over 2 hours. Close enough. Midoriya went to his room and pulled out his first aid kit. After all of that punching, his knuckles were bleeding. It didn't seem that too bad, but he made sure to take care in wrapping it just in case. On his desk was a plate of tamagoyaki. Midoriya smiles. His mom would be upset if he didn't eat anything. The food had long since cooled down, but it was still good anyways. His mom had the best cooking. Midoriya finished the meal and went to proofread his paper that was still on the monitor. Yes, it was late, and yes, he was tired, but really needed a good grade on that paper, so he'd only stay up a little long. Midoriya finally went to bed at 1:38 a.m. At the very least, it wouldn't be the first time he only got a few hours of sleep. It would all be worth it so long as he made it into Yui. Midoriya got up at 5 to go for his run. His legs burned more than usual, but that just meant that they were getting stronger. In school, most of the things his teachers said went overhead. He felt so tired that paying attention was hard. Luckily, there were no tests coming up. He'll just have to catch up on notes tomorrow. Midoriya, pay attention. Midoriya shoots his head up at his teacher. He must have been muttering again. Sorry, sensei. He says quietly. Midoriya did his best to pay attention. They were learning trigonometry. The teacher gave them a mnemonic for memorizing. Sokotoa. Midoriya just blinked slowly. There was too much information. The bell rings, signaling the end of math. Midoriya began to put away his things. What's got you so out of it today? Midoriya shoots up at Kaken's voice. It's nothing. Even Midoriya is unconvinced. I didn't sleep much last night. It wasn't a lie at the very least. Kaken glares at him. His eyes dart down at Midoriya's hands. What the hell happened to your hands, Deku? Midoriya gulps. They aren't that bad. You don't have to worry. I'm not even worried about you, you piece of shit. Damn it, you can't even take care of yourself, and you think you can save others? How the hell do you think you'll be a hero? Midoriya breathed slowly. It didn't matter what he said. Kaken had never believed in him. He would continue on with his training. Midoriya walked away without making a comment. He just needed to get down to Hatsum-sensei's dojo. He'd show her the move and they'd start working on more challenging kata. The dojo was close to his school, so he made good time without needing to run. In the dojo, there was only 3 others: Mei, Hatsum-sensei, and Yahashi. Mei waved at him. Izuku, I figured out the problem with the gauntlets. We still have some time to wait. What happened to your hands? Oh, this? It's nothing really. I was just doing some practice at home. Hatsum-sensei had come over by now. She gasped when she saw the bandages. Midoriya-kun, follow me. Have you changed those at all today? You'll get an infection like that. Midoriya walked with her to the bathroom. She began to unravel the bandages. They had collected some dirt and grime during the day. When she got rid of the bandage, she gasped. Midoriya's knuckles and fingers were completely mangled. Dried blood covered his hand while new blood began to seep out of the reopened wound. Midoriya-kun, what happened to you? I was just practicing, sensei. I wanted to show you the move that I was having trouble with. I didn't have a punching bag at my house, though, so I used a tree instead. I was able to get it down. I can even show you when you're done. Midoriya was expecting Hatsum-sensei to be proud. He was not prepared to see her face contorted in horror. Midoriya-kun, you can't really believe that this is all right? She says softly. But you said you wanted me to give my all. I didn't mean hurt yourself. She puts a hand to her face. Hurting yourself in any situation is never the answer. Do you understand? Midoriya nods, but he doesn't quite understand. Hatsum-sensei seems to know this. All right, Midoriya-kun, I'm going to tell you a story. There's this pro-hero, his name is Eraserhead. Have you heard of him? That name did sound familiar. I recognize it. Given the fact that he's an underground hero, just recognizing his name is pretty good. Eraserhead is my favorite hero since he's one of the few that have a decent understanding of martial arts. His quirk can only erase other quirks, so he relies on his ability to fight being better than his opponents. Now Midoriya, I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine. Midoriya complies and closes his eyes. Imagine that Eraserhead had been reckless and hurt himself like you did. His punches wouldn't be as strong because he'd be punching through the pain. What would happen in this scenario? He'd lose. It's more than that, Midoriya-kun. He'd be a liability to the rest of his team. They'd have to save him when they could have been saving other civilians. You'd be at an even greater disadvantage. Not having a quirk means the only thing you have is your fighting skills. You have to use them wisely and respect your body's limits. She finished wrapping new bandages onto his hands. I need you to promise me you'll never do this again. Training Bidmed, I need you to be okay. Midoriya takes a shaky breath. I promise. Hatsum-sensei smiles at him. But you understand that I have to tell your mom, right? Midoriya nods. He'd rather his mom stay out of it, but sometimes actions have consequences. You've made a lot of progress these past few weeks, Midoriya-kun. I'm afraid that I'm going to have to insist that you take the next 3 days off. What? Midoriya is shocked. The exam is coming up, though. I need to be ready. You will be. I have been watching you very closely these weeks, and I know you have been overworking yourself. Use these rest days to recover your strength. Then we'll be back to work. Sighing, Midoriya agrees. He couldn't argue with Hatsum-sensei. They went back out. More people had arrived by now and were stretching. Midoriya-kun. Midoriya turned to his teacher. When you were telling me about your hand, you were expecting me to be proud. Why? Midoriya looks down. The only way for me to get my teacher's attention is if I score the highest. Otherwise they'll mostly just ignore me. I'm used to working myself to the bone. Midoriya sees a flash of anger on Hatsum-sensei's face. Your teachers have done you a great disservice. making you work until you physically can't just for a pat on the back. It's despicable. You don't need to do that here. I recognized your skill your first day here. Midoriya does his best to hold back tears. Thank you, Hatsum-sensei. Midoriya goes to stretch with Mei. She starts going on and on about the gauntlet. She'd installed a glass lens to focus the beam so it doesn't go haywire again. Hatsum-sensei called everyone to attention and began to announce the day's plan. Training was long today, even longer since Hatsum-sensei made sure he was only doing easy movements. For the first time, the judo class felt boring. He ducked down as Mei threw a punch. All right everyone. Good job today, practice is over. The students began to chatter with their friends. Midoriya sat down and took a drink of water. Hey Midoriya-kun, I have an assignment for you. Hatsum-sensei says walking over. I had planned to give this to you later, but I figured you'd be bored over the weekend. Midoriya looks at the list she hands him. On it were multiple hero names. They're obscure heroes. I want you to analyze 4 things about each of them. Midoriya looks at her surprised. You want me to analyze them? She nods. Being able to think rationally in a battle is great. Being able to find weaknesses quickly is even better. When you're in a real fight, the only thing you have going for you is training, so you need to train your mind as well. Midoriya grins. What do you want me to do? Analyze their quirk, their fight style, their weaknesses and their strengths. Think you can do that? Midoriya nods. Good. I'll see you on Monday. Mom. I'm home. Midoriya yells out as he shuts the door. Izuku. His mom comes running out of the kitchen and starts looking over him. I just got a call from Taniko-senpai. She told me not to let you exercise until Monday. What happened? Midoriya laughs nervously. I sort of went overboard with the training. She just wants me to rest. His mom frowns. Are you sure you're okay? Yes, Mom, I'm fine. She doesn't look like she believes him, but she drops it. The 3 days go by agonizing slow. Hatsum-sensei was right when she said he'd be bored. Midoriya had finished the assignment she gave him a while ago. She seemed to prefer underground heroes more than spotlight heroes. Out of all of them, Pro Hero Blindsight was his favorite. Her quirk was bending light around eyes. If she made eye contact, then she could bend light and blind them temporarily. From what he could tell, the more light there is in the surroundings, the harder it is to bend it away. She also can't work well in a crowd, since she has to keep eye contact. That's why she's an underground hero. In a dark alley, she's completely at home. Midoriya had watched all the videos of her that existed and he really enjoyed how quick she could take down villains. Midoriya was re-watching one of those videos right now to pass the time. It wasn't working. He had too much energy and nothing to do with it. Suddenly, Midoriya has an idea. Hey, Mom, do you want to go on a picnic? His mom comes around the corner. That sounds like a great idea. Izuku, do you want to make the sandwiches? Sure. The 2 of them haven't gone on a picnic in so long. It was so beautiful outside. A robin landed in the palmate maple. There was a comfortable silence between the 2. Izuku. Midoriya turns to face his mom. I'm so proud of you. You have put so much effort into your dream. I'm never going to stop worrying about you. I might just worry more if you do make it into Yui. You are going to be an amazing hero. I'm so sorry I didn't believe in your dreams from the start. Midoriya smiles at her and holds back tears. Thank you, Ma. It means a lot. The 2 continue their picnic, occasionally pointing out a bird or taking a bite out of a sandwich. All in all, it was a great way to spend his last rest day. Starting Monday, training picked back up, and Hatsum-sensei was definitely pushing him. Midoriya did his best to take care of his body. The entrance exam was only a few days away now. Midoriya-kun, tell me again how you are going to pass the physical. Hatsum-sensei questioned. Stay focused, find the weak points, and exploit them before the others can get there. If you think someone will get there first, don't be afraid to fight. Midoriya replied automatically. Hatsum-sensei smiles at him. As long as you use that head of yours, you'll be fine. Midoriya sure hoped so. The Yui gate loomed over him. It cast a shadow that could reach all the way to the road. Behind it, Midoriya could see the Yui building. In front of it, a queue blossomed in front of a table. A staff member appeared to be examining paperwork. Midoriya waited in the line for a few minutes before reaching front. Name? The man asked. Midoriya Izuku. The man sifted through application forms while mumbling the alphabet. Midoriya Izuku, applying for hero course and general education. The man squinted at the sheet of paper. Quirks, huh? Well, good luck to ya. You'll need it. The man said as he stamped the application. He held out a card. No one can enter Yui without an ID. This is your guest ID. Keep it with you at all times, and if you lose it, please tell a faculty member. They will be walking through the halls at all times. The man droned to him. Here's your map of the school. You will be in lecture hall 5 for the written exam. Next. Midoriya stuffed the ID card into his pocket and walked through the gate. He half expected something to go wrong and set off an alarm, but he made it through unscathed. Midoriya admired the building. He was finally here. Out of my way, Deku. Midoriya turned sharply to see Kaken approaching with a deadly glare. He jumped out of the way with a squeak. Sorry, Kaken. I didn't see you there. He laughed awkwardly. Kaken walked past him without a word. Midoriya sighed. Kaken wasn't going to steal this chance from him. He was going to be a hero. Midoriya took a step forward. His eyes widened as his foot caught on his shoelaces. Or maybe I'll just die, Midoriya thought as he fell forward. He closed his eyes and anticipated the force of concrete on his face. 5 seconds later, he still didn't feel the ground, so he opened his eyes. He was hovering? Are you okay? Midoriya looked up to see a girl with bouncy brown hair holding him up. I saw you falling, so I came to help. It's bad luck to fall on an important day. All right. Thank you for helping me. How did you? My quirk is anti-gravity. I made you float so you didn't fall. Midoriya smiled at her. That's a cool quirk. Good luck on the exam. You too, she skipped off. Midoriya hoped to talk to her again. She seemed genuinely empathetic. Midoriya followed the map to the lecture hall. Once he entered onto the pitched floor, he quickly estimated about 200 kids clumped throughout the tiered seating, talking to peers. Midoriya spotted Mei. When he sat next to her, she started raving about new invention. You'll definitely like it once it's finished. I'm going to get it. Quiet down, everybody. The students' voices diminish as they stare at Pro Hero Midnight at the lectern. Thank you. I will be watching over the written exam. Before we begin, I have a few guidelines to explain. If you have a cell phone, please deposit it into this bin here. If your phone goes off during the test, your test will officially end in that moment and be considered complete, regardless of how far you progressed in the material. Begin. The room stirred as people rose from their seats. Midoriya followed, as he did not want to be the one student who had their phone interrupt the exam. When everyone returned to their seats minus their cell phones, Midnight continued. Each section is worth 25% of the total written grade. As she spoke, a third-year student aide passed out booklets and sharpened pencils. Do not crack the seal until I give the word. The sections are math, to be completed without a calculator, math with a calculator, reading and writing comprehension, and a written essay. If you did not bring a calculator, that is on you. The first section will be 1 hour. Good luck, your time starts now. Break the seals. After splitting the tape on the side of his booklet, he scanned the questions. Math may not be his favorite subject, but that didn't mean he was bad at it. In fact, the problems were downright easy as far as he was concerned. He did not have to skip around much to find and solve the basic ones. When he found one he didn't know immediately how to solve, he'd just move on. There'd be time at the end to finish those. Midoriya made it to the end of the section with 10 minutes to spare. In total he had skipped 7 problems, so if he budgeted his time he could answer all of them. None of them were multiple choice, which could leave room for arithmetic error. Midoriya couldn't imagine how hard it'd be to grade all of these tests by hand. Everybody, there is 1 minute left. Please finish whatever question you are on and close the book. 1 minute turned out to be just what he needed. Midoriya closed the test booklet just as the timer began to ring. Books closed, everyone. You will not be able to go back and check answers. I'll give you 5 minutes to stretch and then we'll begin the next part. Midoriya threw his arms behind his back and rolled out the crick in his neck. He felt confident in his answers. Hey, Izuku, what did you get for finding the square root of I? I got 1 over the square root of 2 plus 1 over the square root of 2 times I. I'm pretty sure it's plus or minus, since the square root of a variable is 2 values. Ah crap, I always forget that. You probably got everything else right. The next parts go by in a similar manner. No multiple choice, just showing work and writing short answers. Finally, it was time for the essay. You will have 90 minutes to complete this essay. Whatever pre-writing you have will also be graded, so please remember to do it. At least 30 kids last year barely annotated the reading, she groused. Then her voice resumed its efficiency. Good luck. Midoriya was glad UE had a page on their website dedicated to essay prompts. The web page was broken up into 3 sections: business course prompts, gen ed course prompts, and practice prompts for the written exam. There was also a help page. He had no idea how many hours he'd put into writing essays and checking them over with UE staff. It was probably about as much time as he put into his physical training. It paid off now. Midoriya had seen this prompt before on the website, albeit there were a few changes. This was his favorite subject by far. He loved being able to deconstruct and analyze literature, peeling away layers of understanding. His teachers told him he had a flair for it, and right now he hoped those compliments were more than diplomatic teacher politeness. Language teachers said he and Kaken were the only ones who really understood the meaning behind something. Midoriya finished writing and looked up at the clock. 15 minutes left. Just enough time for him to read it over. His eyes glide over the paper, lips forming the words. He tries his best not to mumble, but based on a few pointed glares he didn't succeed. All right everybody, time's up. Pass your tests forward. Midnight called out to everyone. Midoriya could hear some grumbling protests from those who didn't finish. If you have a portfolio or application essay to turn in, please do so now. Otherwise you can make your way to Lecture Hall 3 for a briefing on the physical exam. Midoriya and May walked down the aisle and to the front. Midnight was sifting through test booklets and arranging them alphabetically. Put them in the bin over there. Midnight points to a plastic bin without looking up. Your quirk is so cool. Midoriya blurts out. Midnight looks up at him. It'd be really helpful during a hostage incident since you just put all of the captors to sleep. Or if there was a villain ambush. Or if you were trying to help someone in hysterics. Or maybe, Midoriya kept rambling. He had a list of situations that Midnight would excel in just like the rest of the pro heroes. Midnight laughed. You know, most people pay more attention to my costume than my quirk. Well, yeah, your costume is functional. It gives you complete control over the potency of your sleep gas. Midnight laughed again. Hey, aren't you the kid All Might mentioned? With that sludge villain? All Might mention me? Midoriya's eyes grew comically wide. Yes, I remember now. He said you had really thought out quirk theories. I thought you'd be trying out for the hero program. I am. I've applied to both the hero and the general education courses. What, not confident in yourself? Honestly, if All Might has a good word for you, then you should be solid. It's not that, it's the quirk demonstration I'm worried about. Midnight sighed. I wish they'd changed the exam already. They probably would have if the society wasn't biased to more flashy quirks. Better headlines, you know. If you want some advice, though, I can tell you that they aren't judging your quirk. It's about how you use your situation to your advantage. Thank you, Midnight. Good luck, kid. Midoriya and May walked down to the lecture hall. It wasn't as noisy as the written exam room, but people were whispering among each other. Midoriya saw Kaken sitting alone and moved to sit next to him. Kaken just glared. You never told me about this sludge villain. You have to tell me the details. Okay, I will tell you when this is over. Midoriya grinned at May. Hello everybody. Midoriya's attention was drawn to present Mike in the middle of the room. Welcome to the physical exam. Before we begin, can I get a hey? Midoriya could practically hear the crickets. Present Mike continued on without hesitating. The aim of the physical is to destroy as many of the villain robots as possible. Each robot has a point value of 1, 2, or 3 depending on their difficulty. There's also a 0-point robot, but we generally advise everyone to avoid these rather than fight them. Does everybody understand? There were more crickets. Great. I will put the testing locations on the screen. Please go to where you are assigned. The screen behind Present Mike lit up. Scanning for his name, Midoriya realized he and May were in different locations. Dang it, I was hoping to use you as a dummy. May said to him. What if I used you as a dummy? Midoriya retorted. You wouldn't though. You just freeze up at the entrance and I'd have to save your butt by destroying the thing. I don't freeze. May's eyebrow rose. Stop that, May. Midoriya pushed her shoulder. May gave a loud laugh. Really though, I hope you do well. If you don't, then I'll be in Yui without somebody to electrocute. I'm so glad you only want me around to cause me bodily harm. May grinned at him and bumped his shoulder. Going outside, the two parted ways and head to their respective testing grounds. There was a giant gate that towered over him. Outside of it were the examines. Midoriya looked around for someone he recognized. There was that girl with the bouncy hair. He should go talk to her and figure out her name. Midoriya began to walk over when a voice called out to him. Hey, green-haired kid. Midoriya turns around to see a familiar face topped with blue hair. Wait, aren't you the person I ran into at the park? I never got your name. Midoriya said. The teen stopped abruptly and bowed deep. I am Ida Tenya. My apologies for knocking you over. It's cool. Did he say his name was Ida? Ida as in Ingenium, the pro hero? Midoriya couldn't stop the excitement in his voice. Ah. Ida looked surprised. Not many people recognize my name right away. My brother is Ingenium. He's such a cool hero. I made lots of notes on his quirk. I can show you after this if you'd like. That would be most beneficial. Thank you. Ida bowed again. No problem. My name is Midoriya Izuku. He held out his hand for Ida to take. What are you all waiting for? Present Mick's voice came over the intercom. The test has begun. Midoriya turned his head to see everyone sprinting off into the now open gates. He tried to catch up with them but was soon left in their dust. Through the dust he saw the double doors had opened into a vast polished urban landscape. Uniform buildings rose into the sky like giant, empty rectangles. None of the structures bore names or logos or storefronts. It exuded a sanitized apocalypse, ghostly but clean. To punctuate the organized engineering, a line of glossy paved roads turned right-angle corners, forming a proper grid. The robots could be lurking down any one of those corners behind buildings. Midoriya cautiously turned a corner from the center lane of a nameless street. Suddenly, he came face to face with one of the robots. It stared down at him with yellow lenses. It stood at nearly twice his height. He could see the blaster revving up. Midoriya needed to move. How to destroy it before it destroyed him? Fear paralyzed him. None of his limbs could move. All he could do was stare back at the giant. The blaster glowed, readying a load of searing light, but before it fired, Midoriya saw a flash of blue. When the light subsided, all that remained of the robot was a pile of metal. Thanks for distracting it for me. We probably won't see each other again. Au revoir, said a thin boy with sparkly blonde hair. The boy ran away as fast as he had arrived. Midoriya stood there in shock, but quickly regained his composure. He raced toward an open square, what might be a city center. That robot just the first one. He knew what to expect now and could take them down. He'd be fine. Or so he thought, until he came to the center of the staged city. Everywhere he saw the destroyed remnants of robots. He ran into another sector and found even more parts and pieces. He saw Ida and the girl from the entrance both reaping the robots. 28 points. The girls said with heavy breath. 45, Ida said as he zoomed by. 45 points already? Midoriya was still at 0. There wasn't enough time to catch up to them. Was this really it? Midoriya was going to go running off again, but the ground started shaking. There was a low rumble and a regular pulse of movement. It also sounded like footsteps. Midoriya heard screams and saw people collectively running in one direction. The rumble grew louder, and now Midoriya heard the boom of collapsing buildings. Dust from the fallen rubble clouded his vision and made him cough. The dust settled, and now Midoriya saw why people were running still. Ahead of Midoriya loomed a robot so massive that it surpassed the height of the surrounding buildings. It bore fists the size and shape of school buses. Midoriya couldn't even see the top of it without craning neck. The thing towered over Midoriya and cast a shadow dark enough to feel like it was late evening rather than just past noon. It was the 0-point robot. Midoriya knew he should run. There was no benefit to staying. Despite this, Midoriya's eyes strayed and landed on something, or rather, someone. The brown hair that belonged to the girl was covered in dust and dirt, yet it remained recognizable. She struggled under a sheet of thick concrete, pulling at her foot trapped under debris. Midoriya doesn't realize that he's running to her until he's there. Everyone else had preferred getting away over saving her. All in all, this was probably the stupidest thing he'd ever done, but Midoriya would be dead if he just left her there. "Are you hurt?" he asked the girl. "My ankle is twisted, I think. I can't reach the rubble on my leg." "I'm going to get you out." Midoriya ran over to her leg. A giant piece of cement was jutting out of the ground. Her leg was trapped underneath it. Her foot appeared to be at an unnatural angle. Midoriya tried to push the rock off of her. His muscles strained with the effort. Even after a minute of pushing, it never budged. Midoriya jumped as the robot's foot landed to the ground, throwing up a new wave of dust. The robot was only a few steps from crushing them. "There's not enough time for me to push this off. I have to stop the robot." Midoriya scanned the premise for anything that could help him. He could see rebar, shards of broken glass, and tons of cement. His eyes land on a long piece of rope from some banner. It's bad luck to fall on an important day. Midoriya's eyes widened. He could trip the robot. Running over to grab the rebar and rope, Midoriya organized a plan. He tied the end of rope to one of the loose rebar and ran to the robot. A giant hand whistled toward him, so he ducked into a makeshift roll. The knuckles like drain covers barely grazed his back, but Midoriya managed to elude the beast. Winding around the feet, Midoriya leaped up to toss the end over the top of one foot. When it caught, he circled the other foot. He dodged to the left, to avoid another swipe, then snapped the rope upwards to wrap the legs. It barely grazed Zero Robot's ankles. He started to repeat the process, but before he could make a full revolution, the robot leg lifted and shook the ropes away like they were silly string. It was useless. Midoriya wasn't fast enough to get the rope around the legs before it moved. He needed speed. Where could he get speed? Midoriya. Midoriya turned around to see Ida running towards him. Of course, Ida's quirk was engine just like Ingenium. "Ida, we need to trip the robot. Can you run this rope around its legs?" Ida nods and grabbed the rope from him. Midoriya watched as Ida's engines came to life, an orange flame burning bright. Ida took off and circled the feet much faster than Midoriya could ever hope to run. The robot lifted its foot again, but this time the rope didn't slide off. Midoriya ran over to Ida and held onto the rope with him. Midoriya could feel the force of the robot threaten to pull the rope away, but he held on. Unable to walk, the robot visibly lost its balance. Midoriya saw the head tip forward, followed by the body. He and Ida finally let go of the rope, as the robot leaned into one of the still intact buildings. Across from where the girl lay, the building collapsed under the weight of the robot. "Yeah. Whoa. We did it, Ida!" Midoriya shouts. He remembered the purpose of tripping the robot in the first place and raced over to the trapped girl. "Ida, come over here and help me push." With the strength of both of them combined, Midoriya feels a slight shift in the cement. The rock moves up barely an inch, but it's enough for the girl to pull out her foot. "Is your foot okay? I can help you walk to the—" A loud buzzer sounds off. Midoriya hears the intercom come on again. "The test has ended. Please exit the facility. If you are injured, stay where you are." It's over. He'd been so busy trying to help one of the people he was competing with that he didn't go looking for any robots worth points. Midoriya felt tears burn his eyes. "I just wanted 1 point." He doesn't notice the guilty look on the girl's face. "Well, You've certainly done some damage. An older woman walked over to them. She has a large syringe pinning up her hair. Don't worry, that twisting ankle will only take a minute to fix up. The woman bent down and placed a wet kiss on the girl's ankle. In a few seconds the ankle turned back into a natural position. I feel tired. The girl said. What did you expect? It's a twisted ankle. You too, she pointed her finger at him and Ida. Let me see your hands. She looked over their hands with a disgruntled expression. Mild rope burn. Get some burn cream on them when you get home, you'll be fine. With that the lady left to treat others. Midoriya hung his head low as he left the cityscape. He felt angry at himself. Not even one single point earned. He'd have to kiss the hero course goodbye after that farce of a show. Midoriya hoped that he'd still be allowed into general education, but that was a fat chance. The gate to Yui was no longer foreboding, yet seeing it didn't ease him. Izuku, wait up. Midoriya turned around to see Mei running over to him. She had a bright smile on her face. Hey, how did you do in the physical? Terrible. I didn't get a single point. Her smile never fell. Why are you happy about that? You only need a good score on the physical for the hero course. I'm going to support, and once they see my babies they'd be idiots not to accept me. If anything, her smile got bigger. And how did you do, Mr. I'm going to be the first quirkless hero? Midoriya laughed. You totally called it. Called what? Her eyebrows dip in confusion. I froze like a deer in headlights. Right at the start too. Someone with a laser saved me. Mei threw her head back and laughed hard. See what I mean? I'm calling it right now. This whole setup was a conspiracy to keep us apart. The staff must have known that together we'd have taken down everything so fast that nobody else would have had a chance. Apart we both get nothing, but together we get everything, even the points from the other testing areas, he joked along with her. Of course. Just grab a working blaster then storm the other facilities. We'd have gotten so many points. They should just call this a mistrial or something so we can be together. Both of them laughed together. Mei was a special friend to cheer him worked. After that performance, he really needed it. Midoriya was content to walk home with Mei when he heard his name being called again. When he turned around, Ida was running to them. The boy bowed deeply once he gotten to them. Midoriya, I'd like to apologize. Apologize? For what? When I first saw you, I didn't recognize you. I didn't really think you belonged with everyone else who were trying out for you. I went over to prevent you from distracting the girl. My prejudgment of you was completely wrong, and seeing you run in to help her for no benefit to yourself made me realize that. I hope you can forgive me. Of course I forgive you. Do you still want to see the notes I have on Ingenium? Yes, that sounds great. Midoriya reached into his bag and pulled out his hero analysis journal. He flipped to the page on Ingenium and held it out to Ida. After reading for a moment, Ida spoke up. These notes are incredibly detailed. I never considered only activating one engine at a time. Try it. Midoriya grinned. Ida walked a few paces before lifting his leg. Ida concentrated hard since only activating one engine required a completely different tactic than igniting both. A fire bloomed on one leg while the other remained dormant. As the leg lit up, the propulsive force threw Ida off balance. In only a few seconds, he was on the ground groaning. Midoriya paced back and forth while contemplating what went wrong. It could be your center of gravity. If you lean back more, the force won't knock you down. You also probably don't need as much power behind the engine since you aren't running. Less power, lean back. I'm going to try this again. Ida leaned until his back was almost perpendicular with his other leg. The flame started again, but this time it was smaller. Ida started rotating on his leg like a wheel on an axle. Yes. Midoriya shouts. He'd never had a chance to test out his theories. Seeing it work boosted his mood. You can do so much with this. When you're running you can use this to make a sharp turn, or if you're fighting you can put more power into a kick. Midoriya rambled. He was so excited to see the limits of Ida's quirk. May I take a photo of your notes? I feel like my brother and I can benefit from them. Yes, of course. I can work with you on it as well, if you want. Ida nodded his head. That sounds great. I hope to see you in the hero course, Midoriya. Midoriya felt a swell of pride at his words. Ida thought he deserved to be in the hero course. I will do my best. Midoriya was working with Hatsum-sensei. It had been 5 days since the exam. Right now he was learning shoulder throws. The longer he went without an answer from Yui, the more he worried. He wanted to get in so badly, but would Yui even allow a quirkless kid to enter? You're in your own head again, aren't you? Midoriya looks over at Hatsum-sensei. You know that just putting on a smile and cheerful attitude isn't going to fool me, right, Midoriya-kun? Sorry, he replies. How about instead of being sorry, you tell me what's up? I can't help if I don't know what's got you down. Midoriya is quiet for a moment before letting his smile drop into a frown. I did horrible on the physical exam. What if I don't get in? Hatsum-sensei shrugged. If you don't get in, you don't get in. But you're so focused on Yui that you can't see the bigger picture. Wanting to go to Yui because your idol went there is fine, but not when it prevents you from being your own person. I'm not here to train and all might too. I'm here to train you, Midoriya-kun. Tell me, are you just going to quit if you don't make it? Yes. He grumbled. Hatsum-sensei gave him a glare only a mom could muster while Midoriya's face contorted into a you asked for it expression. I don't have time for your sass. Answer my question. Midoriya sighed. I don't want to quit. I'm just worried. It's okay to be worried, but let's say you really didn't pass. What are you going to do about it? Midoriya was quiet for a moment. The Shiketsu entrance exam is in 2 weeks. If I don't make Yui, I can try there. That's a start, Midoriya-kun. The world isn't going to end if you fail. I was just so terrified. Everyone else was destroying those robots left and right, but I was just frozen. I'm not supposed to be so afraid. Midoriya-kun, it's a naive ideal to think that heroes don't feel fear. Fear is a part of us. If you want, we can work on building your confidence. Just know that you will always find yourself in a situation where confidence isn't enough. Midoriya took a shaky breath in. Thank you, Hatsum-sensei. No problem, kid. In my personal opinion, though, that school would be foolish not to accept you. Already you're more compassionate than some current heroes. Midoriya mumbled a stop as a blush grew on his face. Hatsum-sensei just laughed. Come on, we still have practice to do. Let's see that throw. Midoriya smiled. Leave it to Hatsum-sensei to attack the problem at its source. Midoriya went home sore that night. Dinner was much the same as it always was, with Inko asking him about his day and him responding. He'd gone to his room for the night when he heard a crash in the hall. Midoriya opens the door to see his mom hurrying to him. Izuku, it's here. The letter from Yui, it's here. Midoriya grabbed the envelope from her and ran back into his room. He took a deep breath as he sat down at his desk. The letter bared an intricate seal with the Yui logo on top. It was addressed to him. In a sense, it was Schrodinger's letter. Right now, he was both accepted and denied at the same time, and he would only collapse into one state once he opened the letter. He just had to rip off the band-aid. Midoriya tore open the envelope and 2 things fell out. One was a paper with writing on it, the other a small video projector. With a press of a button, the projector turned on and Midoriya sees a holographic projection of pro-hero ectoplasm. Good evening, Midoriya. I have the results of all of your tests. For the written, your score was once of the highest out of everyone who took it. The cutoff was reaching the 70th percentile. Your score was in the 96th percentile. This score is something you should be very proud of. For the quirk demonstration, despite not using a quirk, you scored 5 points as you showed the judges your problem-solving abilities were strong and that you can be reliable without using a quirk. Your physical score is really what I want to talk about, though. You did not score any points from destroying robots. Despite this, there is something you should see. Behind ectoplasm, a TV screen came to life. Midoriya gasped as he sees the girl from before walk in front of the camera. Hello? Present Mike-san. Yes. I want to give someone my points. The kid with the green hair, he saved my life. He mentioned that he didn't have any points, so I wanted to give him some of mine, as gratitude. You cannot give other people points. Do not worry though, the student will be fine. After that, ectoplasm cuts the footage. When you ran to that girl's aid during the physical for no benefit to yourself, you demonstrated the quality we here at UE want most in our heroes to be, selflessness. It is why we have a second point system in the physical we keep secret. These points are called rescue points, and your actions earned you a total of 27 points. Midoriya felt his chest swell. He'd gotten points. Maybe he did get into hero program. Sadly, your total score is not enough to qualify for the hero course. Midoriya felt his soul deflate on the spot. Do not be discouraged. I have your essay for the general education course right here. As the head of the general education department, I read and graded all of the essays. Yours was the most well-written out of all of them. Midoriya's eyes widen. You've probably figured out what I'm about to say. Congratulations, Midoriya Izuku, you have been admitted into Class 1C, my class. I expect you will do great things in the future. With that, the hologram turned off, and Midoriya left the room, screaming for his mom. Midoriya stared up at the sign above him. On it read 1A. His classroom was further down the hall, but he wanted to see the hero kids first. Midoriya's journal was in his hand. He had about 15 minutes before class started, so he could use that time to take notes on the hero kids' quirks. Oh hey, I'm so glad you made it. Midoriya turned around to see the girl with brown hair walking towards him. Well, after you. She motions to the door. Oh, I'm not in this class. Midoriya laughed. I'm in general education, Class 1C. Really? I guess I assumed you wanted to be a hero with how you acted during the exam. I do want to be a hero. I just, don't have a really flashy quirk. He scratched his head nervously. That's no fair. Well, have fun. She smiled at him and Midoriya realized he still didn't know her name. What's your name? He asked. Oh, I'm Uraraka Ochako. See you later? Yes, see you. Midoriya watched Uraraka go into the class. From outside, he could hear Ida's voice yelling at someone about feet on the desk. Midoriya rolled his eyes. Already, he managed to find a colorful cast of friends. At least he hoped they were his friends. He hadn't told them he was quirkless yet. Midoriya walked away along the hallway. Some kids were milling around at the intersections. Windows lined the out-facing wall. He could see the UE gate at the bottom. It looked much smaller from a few floors up into the air. Midoriya followed the map to his class. The door was large and a plain gray. Above it, a sign said 1C. Midoriya took a deep breath and pushed open the door. He flinched back from how loud it was inside. People were laughing and conversing. No one spared a glance in his direction. A kid was bouncing around from group to group. He was trying to get the attention of others. Hello. What's your? The kid was pushed away as someone else joined the conversation. He pouted when the group ignored him. Midoriya felt bad for him. The kid looked over at the now open door. He made a beeline to Midoriya. Some classmates sent the kid looks of annoyance as he pushed through them to get to the door. Hello there. I'm your new classmate, Tenso Enerugi. Would you like to sit next to me? I can help you with your stuff. Is this what people perceive me when I get hyper-excited? Midoriya pondered. Tenso spoke a mile a minute and it didn't even faze him. The boy was wearing what looked like multiple winter coats over his uniform. Sure. Where do you sit? Tenso's expression went from excitement to surprise to even more excitement in the span of less than a second. Over here. Tenso turned on his heel and started pushing through more people to get to a seat in the far corner. The annoyed faces on the other students' faces changed to pitted amusement when they watched Midoriya follow. Midoriya tossed his bag down on an empty beige desk and took a seat next to Tenso. My name's Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya holds out his hand for Tenso to shake. When he looked at the outstretched hand, Tenso got nervous. I, can't really touch you. My quirk and all. Tenso laughed. Oh, what's your quirk? Energy transfer. If I touch people, I steal their energy and they get cold and tired like me. That's awesome. Can I see? Tenso blinked slowly. You want to have your energy stolen? I mean, I guess I can show you. Tenso grabbed his hand. It felt extremely cold, like one would expect of a dead body. Midoriya could feel the cold traveling up his arm. His fingers ached. It felt like he'd grabbed an icicle without gloves. Midoriya released his hand and grabbed his journal from his bag. Midoriya began to jot down a few notes. He wondered if Tenso could transfer energy other than thermal. Maybe it applied to all types of kinetic energy. He'd have to test if Tenso could also absorb sound and light. Transfer also means emitting energy. Could Tenso give people energy as well? That would be very useful in a battle since he could help people keep moving even if they're tired. You got all of that from one touch? Midoriya craned his neck away from his journal to see Tenso mouth agape. Goddamn mumbling again. He really needs to fix that. I guess. You have a cool quirk. It'd be fun applying to different situations. You really think so? Midoriya nods. Thank you so much. Is your quirk like analysis or something? Midoriya scratched his head. He knew someone would ask sooner or later. He really wished it had been the latter. Well, you see. Hey! Midoriya turns away to see another boy staring at him. The boy had wild purple hair that appears to have foregone being brushed. Midoriya could guess that he didn't sleep well by the deep eye bags. Your stuff. The boy said. It's on my desk. Midoriya looked over at his bag. He had set it down on the desk next to the one he sat at since it was empty. Midoriya scrambled to put all of his stuff away. Sorry about that. My name's Midoriya. He smiled up at the boy. Midoriya watched as the boy ghosts into his seat without a reply. Taking out a book, the boy showed no interest in conversation. Midoriya's eyes were drawn to the door when it opened again. In walked ectoplasm. To your seats, everyone, I don't have all day. The students made their ways to the different desks. All of them were aligned in 4 neat rows of 5. The back 3 were taken by Tenso, him, and the purple kid. Welcome to general education. I'm sure you know me, so we'll save introductions for later. General education is not a rejection program for the hero course. Your expectations will be just as high as them since you are in a UE course. The standard classes you will all take are at a higher level than if you were in any other course. I will pass out your schedules. Spend the rest of homeroom, however. When Midoriya got his schedule, Tenso was already climbing over his desk to compare it to his. Math is first PRD. Will you let me borrow your notes? I have a hard time paying attention to teachers. Sure. Midoriya turns to the kid next to him. What do you have first PRD? Finally, he looks up at Midoriya. Math. And back to looking at his book. The bell begins to ring, and the boy walks away before Midoriya could talk to him. Come on, let's go. Tenso got up and ran out. In the hallway, Tenso was telling Midoriya about his time in middle school. Gi-chan, wait up. Midoriya turns around to see a girl running over to them. She stood about a foot over Midoriya, but Tenso stood a few inches over her. I found my rat. The girl is smiling wide as she held out a plump rodent. Why did you bring her to school? The teachers are going to freak. Come on, isn't scary. The girl turns her head and wow, her irises are completely white. Who's the little green bean? Green bean? Midoriya asked, confused. Why do you have a rat? This is my pet Iam. She keeps running away. The girl holds the animal out to Midoriya. Iam reaches for him and squeaks. This is Midoriya. He has this really cool analysis quirk. We just met and he was asking questions about my quirk I'd never even thought of. The girl looks him right into his eyes. Analyze me. Analyze you? Well, your quirk has something to do with vision, right? She nods. I'm a dream walker. I can see other people's dreams when I sleep. That'd be pretty handy for getting information. If you were trying to get information from someone, all you'd have to do is fall asleep. Can you dream walk when you are awake? That would be easier since you could relay information easier than if you were also asleep. Or maybe dream walking while you're awake only lets you see daydreams. Midoriya looked at her to see a lost expression. Hot DMN. She said. I know, right? Tenso exclaimed. Do you have math first PRD too, Yu-chan? No, I have English language class. Hopefully I'll see you later. Bye. Tenso called as she walked into an adjacent hallway. Who was that? Midoriya asked him. That was my best friend. Her name is Arukuyum, but I just call her Yu-chan. We've been friends since we were 5 years old. Midoriya smiled. Things were already going better than middle school. He could now count 2 friends on his fingers, maybe even a third if Iruka joins their band of misfits. Math was boring to say the least. Cementos was their teacher, and boy did he drone. They were mostly just given practice problems to finish. Some groups of people spoke in hushed tones with each other. Cementos chastised them, and silence fell once again. History was very much the same, droning teacher teaching a lesson he already knows. Midoriya couldn't wait to get to 3rd PRD. Even in middle school, quirk theory class was fun. The bell rung and Midoriya put his stuff away. Hey Midoriya, do you know what we have to do for homework? It's really confusing. I can help you with it after school if you want. Thank you. What class do you have next? My 3rd PRD is quirk theory. Dang, I don't have that. Tenso pouted. See you at lunch then? Yeah. See you. Tenso skipped off in the other direction. Midoriya made his way to the quirk theory classroom. He recognized the teacher's name on the schedule, but couldn't quite place it. Seeing the hero would jog his memory. He got to the class with a few minutes to spare. Midoriya scanned the class. The only person he somewhat knew was the purple-haired kid in the back. Midoriya plopped into the seat next to him. What's that book about? Midoriya asked him. The boy looked up at him. It's a fantasy story, written before quirks. His head dropped back down. Looks like conversation was going to be a challenge. Midoriya liked challenges. What's your name? When the boy didn't move, Midoriya spoke again. My name's Midoriya. You mentioned already. He said. Well then, aren't you going to tell me yours? The boy starts glaring at him. I'm not here for small talk. I'm to be a hero, so leave me alone. A challenge indeed. At least Midoriya had the boy talking now. I want to be a hero too. I've been learning judo for a while now. The boy smirked at him. You better keep up then. I don't plan on going easy. Midoriya smiled. Bingo. He might not have the boy's name yet, but getting him to speak up was the first step. Settle down everyone, I already have a headache. The room quieted at once. Midoriya looked up at their teacher. He had shaggy black hair and scarves wrapped around his frame. Midoriya recognized him instantly. It's Eraserhead. After Hatsum-sensei told him about the hero, Midoriya had researched all that there was of the hero. The man was good at staying hidden. The only videos that existed of him were granny dark footage. Eraserhead sighed. Refer to me by Aizawa, please. Aizawa began to write on the blackboard. I need to do a baseline. Take out a sheet of paper and write this scenario down. Turn it in at the end of class. Midoriya read the board. You are a civilian with a telekinesis quirk. The alley you are in is closed off and in front of you is a villain with an unknown quirk. What do you do? I'm going to take a nap. Good Lou. A faint squeaking filled the air. Aizawa walked over to the air vent on the wall. The vent burst and out came a familiar white rat. I am? How did you get into the vent? Midoriya bent down to pick up the rodent. Once in his arms, the rat climbed him and found a comfortable position curled up in Midoriya's hair. Aizawa's eyes bored into his soul. Midoriya had the audacity to look sheepish. Aizawa put his hand to his face and sighed deeply. It's only the first day of school, Shoyuta. Aizawa mimicked a high-pitched voice. What on earth could go wrong? Everything, Hizashi. Everything will go wrong. Just finish your work, everyone. The room settled down and Midoriya got to work. The rat chittered as he scribbled. Telekinesis is a tricky quirk to work with. People like his mom were limited to small uses, while others had a wide range of their ability. Given how the question said, citizen, Midoriya assumed that less power was the way to go. Since there was no place to run, the best option would be use the surrounding materials. Alleyways generally have dumpsters, so there'd be a lot of small items to throw. The villain had an unknown quirk, which ruled out mutant quirks. Emitter quirks generally prefer range fighting or close combat, so the best place to be was close enough that they cannot use a ranged quirk, but not close enough for be touched. Plus, if you keep launching small items, it would disorient the villain and prevent him or her from accurately using a quirk. The villain wouldn't give him time to type out a quick text, So the best way to get the attention of the heroes would be to make as much noise as possible. Even the weakest telekinesis quirk could fire a rock or brick into a nearby car window, setting off the alarm. Do that a few times, and the villain might even race off before reinforcements appear. Your mumbling is making Aizawa glare. He heard a whisper at his side. Midoriya shut his mouth. Sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to the grump. Right. Not even one day in and his teacher already hates him. Great. Midoriya writes in a concluding sentence just as the bell rings. People start chatting and placing their papers into the bin up front. Midoriya felt Ayam tighten her grip on his scalp as he stood up. Aizawa gave him a tired expression. Keep that rat out of my classroom, Midoriya. I don't want to spend my free time cleaning up rat droppings. Sorry, sir. I won't let it happen again. Midoriya ignored the fact that Ayam wasn't even his and he therefore had no responsibility for her. He handed over his paper. Aizawa took it and began to read it over. Of course Aizawa would read his first. He must be on the teacher's sheet list. Midoriya made his way down to the lunchroom. The place was huge. Students were laughing and screaming everywhere. Some gathered in small clusters, others lounged atop tables that encompassed their whole class. Midoriya spots purple hair sitting alone in the back corner. Midoriya walked up to him and smiled. Ready to tell me your name? The boy didn't look up at him, but Midoriya could see a lip twitch in the trace of a smile. Of course you're not. Midoriya sat down anyway and pulled out the bento his mom made. There was a few minutes of silence between them before Midoriya spoke again. I really don't like calling you the purple hair in my head. Midoriya saw him hide a larger smile. Fine, I'll tell you my name. It's Shinso. Midoriya felt his lips curl up. I win. Yes, you win. Can I go back to reading now? Midoriya nodded and Shinso's head dropped back down. A few minutes later, Midoriya heard a familiar voice. Man, you really like sitting in the back. I could hardly see you back here. Tenso took a seat on his left. He looked over at Shinso and his eyes widened. Midoriya, you know who that is, right? Tenso whispered to him. That's Shinso Hitoshi. I heard from some people he had a villainous quirk. Shinso flipped a page in his book. He appeared to still be reading. I don't know. I just assumed someone as nice as you wouldn't want to hang out with someone like that. Shinso flipped another page. Midoriya could see his knuckles turn placid. You do realize that he's listening to everything you're saying, right? Tensu's face turned pale. Shinso sighed and moved to stand up. No, I understand. You don't want to hang out with the villain kid. I heard it all before. Shinso starts walking away with his lunch. Wait. Shinso turns around to face him. Tenso, apologize. Tenso gave Midoriya a bewildered look. Midoriya narrowed his eyes at him. Sorry, Shinso. I didn't mean to be, mean. Shinso stood still for a moment. Then he took a seat again. Apology accepted, I guess. What is your quirk, if you don't mind me asking? Midoriya said. Brainwashing. I control people. That's not villainous, though. You could save lots of people since you'd be able to stop fights before they began. You'd be a great hero. Shinso looked surprised. You don't have to say that, you know. You aren't going to hurt my feelings. I mean it. All you have to do is take control of a villain and boom, you win. Shinso laughs. You are something else, Midoriya. Oh, that's right. Midoriya turned his head to Tenso. You are going to tell me more about your analysis quirk. Midoriya chuckled awkwardly. About that? I actually don't have an analysis quirk. Or a quirk in general. Tenso looked at him confused. Of course he's going to make me spell it out. I'm quirkless. Wait, really? But you're so good at analyzing quirks and stuff. Are you sure? Midoriya sighed. Yes, I'm sure. I am just as quirkless now as I was when I was 4. You still want to be a hero, Shinso said. Midoriya turned to him, expecting to see a doubtful expression, but Shinso's face was one of curiosity instead. Obviously. I have to keep up with you, right? Shinso laughed. You're crazy. Midoriya had heard those words so many times, so the lack of maliciousness was refreshing. Midoriya was glad that his friends were taking it so well. He had feared they'd just leave him like everyone else in middle school. Vichan, Midoriya, some other kid. Iruku hurried to them. She was balancing food and her school supplies in her hands as she wove through lunch tables. Are you guys excited for next PRD? I know I am. Apparently the Gen Ed course gives students a taste of everything. We get a mini hero class next. That's so cool. Midoriya's eyes lit up. Oh wait. Midoriya reached into his hair and pulled out a now disgruntled rat, freshly woken from her peaceful nap. She got into an air vent, I think. Iruku gasped. I had no idea she left her cage. Iruku pulled out a small metal box. Some of the metal was broken in the corner. Don't chew through the cage. Squeaked in a pattern that sounded suspiciously like mockery. She was too much trouble, was she? Other than the fact that she made my quirk theory teacher hate me, she was actually really well behaved. Oh, that's not a big deal. Once they see you analyze the crap out of everything, they'll love you. Yuchan, Midoriya is actually quirkless. She looked surprised. DMN. I would have never guessed. That's actually really cool. You think so? Midoriya asked. Yeah, totally. She took a seat opposite of Tenso. You got into Yui. I doubt a quirkless person has ever gotten as far as you have. Thanks, Iruku. Midoriya watched more people file into the lunch hall. He spotted Uraraka and Ida sitting at a table with all the hero kids. Thankfully, Kaken was absent. He waved at the two of them. When Uraraka saw him, she got Ida's attention. The two of them stood up and earned a few questioning looks from their peers. It is great to see that you made it, Midoriya. Though, I was disappointed when I didn't see you in one, Ida called over to him. He and Uraraka segued toward Midoriya's table. Bruh, you're friends with the hero kids? Stop being so cool, Midoriya, or we'll have to ban you from the Losers Club. I did not agree to that name. Shinso points a finger at Iruku. She just shrugs. You sat here. The two continued to bicker about the group name of all things in the background. Your name's Midoriya? Uraraka asked. I thought it was Deku. That's what Bakugu called you at the exam. Deku isn't my name. It's actually an insult. Oh, I'm sorry. It sounded really cute, like Dikairu. Midoriya smiled up at her. Then why don't you call me that? I like the sound of it. Alright, Dikairu-kun. She grins at him. Oh, can I call you that too? Iruku asked. Midoriya nodded. Welcome to the Losers Squad, Dikairu-kun. She either didn't hear Shinso's protests or chose to ignore them completely. So how are your classes, Midoriya? Ida asked him. I'm pretty sure Aizawa-sensei, my quirk theory teacher, hates me. Uraraka's lips turned down into pity. Aizawa is the hero course teacher. He seems pretty harsh. Not even one day in and he's already expelled a kid. Not expelled. Ida adds, and Midoriya feels a flash of relief. The kid was just moved down into 1B since he wasn't taking the test seriously. What was his name again? Minoma Nito He seemed pretty cocky. Wonderful. Midoriya sighs. The one teacher that I wanted to please is the one I screwed up with. Don't be so harsh on yourself, Dikairu-kun. I'm sure he'll like you eventually. Midoriya wasn't so sure. Uraraka started asking questions to the others. With her and Ida, the conversation was lively. People were cracking jokes and talking about their day so far. Midoriya could even see Shinso cracking a smile. He'd been missing out on so much in middle school. Back then, he was under the impression that Kaken was the best friend he would even get. Not once had the laughter at the table been directed at him or his situation. It was nice. Having friends, real friends, was the best thing that could have happened to him. Having fun there, Izuku? Midoriya turned around, a smile already on his face. Mei plopped down on the opposite side of the table. Well, aren't you just Mr. Popular, hanging out with hero kids? You won't forget about me now that you have your own little harem here, right? Stop that, Mei. He pushed her a bit. She laughed. Wouldn't be able to forget about you if I tried. You just come up and explode me again. They both laughed at that. Mei joined in Uraraka's questions. and started telling them embarrassing stories featuring Midoriya. Real friends, Midoriya decided, were way better than whatever relationship he had with Kaken. Midoriya walked into the gymnasium. The ceiling rose high above him, like that of a warehouse. Ectoplasm stood in the center, waiting for Class 1C to gather around him. We're going to be doing some exercises today. That received a long groan from the students. Oh, come off it. It won't be that hard. I know a lot of you want to transfer into the hero course, so this will be your first look. You'd be doing work much more rigorous there. To begin, I want to see how much you all know about self-defense. Break up into groups of 2 and start sparring. The students started chatting immediately. Midoriya could see his classmates pair up with their friends. Tenso walked over to him. Want to spar together? I've never done it before. The two of them found an unoccupied mat. Tenso seemed uncertain. So, I just try to hit you? Midoriya nodded. Tenso raised a fist. It was aimed at Midoriya's face. Training kicking it, Midoriya reached up and grabbed his fist despite how cold it was. It had much less force behind it than Midoriya was used to. Tensu's eyes grew wide. On autopilot, Midoriya twisted Tensu's wrist to the left. Ow 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 ow. Tensu's face scrunched up. Midoriya let go, and Tenso started nursing his hand. How did you do that? Midoriya shrugged. I take judo. Yu-chan is right, you need to chill with the awesome. Midoriya laughed. Come on, go again. Tenso threw another punch, stronger this time. Midoriya dodged it, ducking down under the arm and kicking out his leg. His leg sweeps through those of Tenso. He lands on the ground with a grunt. You really aren't playing around. Tenso told him as Midoriya helped him of the ground. I'm regretting choosing you as my partner. Everyone, listen up. Ectoplasm calls out to them. I can tell most of you aren't putting in any effort, so we're going to do things differently. Tenso sighed in relief. Now he didn't have to be beaten by Midoriya. Sit down. Ectoplasm instructed. I will call 2 students up to spar in front of the class. Some of the kids began to protest, but Ectoplasm was having none of it. If you didn't want to spar in front of the class, you should have spent more effort alone. First up, Midoriya and Iruku. He read from the class roster. Midoriya walked up onto the mat. Iruku gave him a cocky grin and held up her arms, her white eyes sparkling in excitement. Midoriya noticed that she had no defined stance, and her hands were open wide. Hatsum-sensei had told him what to expect from taller opponents. They always believed the advantage they gained from height is bigger than it really is. Start. Iruku made her first mistake when she tried to rush him, just as he predicted she would. In one swift movement he stepped out of the way and she ran off the mat. Iruku turned around, appearing slightly aggravated. What, afraid to hit a girl? I'll survive. Second mistake, he thought. She rushed forward again. He grabbed her outstretched arm and pulled it over his shoulder. Iruku coughed loudly when her back slammed into the mat. She rolled over and breathed in, but she didn't stand up. Third mistake. Midoriya reached down and pulled her arm out as she tried to stand up. He twisted the arm and pushed it into her back. Okay, I'm out. She grunts out. Ectoplasm nodded. He calls out the next group and Midoriya took a seat to watch. Midoriya realized how completely inexperienced everyone else was. The boy up threw a clunky punch, but so slow that if Midoriya had been up there, he would have landed multiple hits. It looked like nobody actually cared, and that made Midoriya angry. Why should they be at UE if they weren't going to work for it? He was called up a few more times. The first one he ended the fight by getting his opponent into a chokehold, and the second he did the same sweeping kick he did to Tenso. Ectoplasm had him demonstrate the move for the class. Midoriya now stood in front of the class after winning his 5th spar. All right, everyone. Ectoplasm spoke. I will give extra credit to whoever tries to pin Midoriya. If Midoriya wins, he gets the extra credit. The room was silent. Some students looked between each other and whispered if they should go for it. A few appeared nervous even. Nobody? All right, I'll fight. Midoriya's eyes landed on the person the voice came from. Shinso stood there and made his way to the mat. He wore a blank expression. Just like everyone else in the room, he didn't have a concrete stance, yet there was something different about him. Shinso held none of the cocky air that Iruku had, despite their heights being similar. Start. Shinso moved. He didn't go straight for an attack. Instead, he started to circle Midoriya. He was waiting for something. He wants me to attack first, Midoriya realized. In all of Midoriya's other fights, he'd waited for his opponents to hit first. Midoriya clenched his fists and saw Shinso's eyes flicker down, confirming his suspicions. Shinso was going to use his strategy against him. Very clever. Midoriya rose his arm to be in line with Shinso's face. Shinso was ready for it and brought up his arms protectively. Midoriya smirked. Too easy. Without his arms covering his chest, Shinso was defenseless. He seemed to realize this just a little too late as Midoriya swung his leg into Shinso's abdomen, foregoing his punch entirely. Shinso clutched his stomach as he was knocked off balance. This didn't deter him though, because just as quickly he was rushing Midoriya. Midoriya was caught off guard when Shinso wrapped his arms around his torso, trying to push him down. That kick was always enough to end a fight with his usual sparring partner, me. In the next second, Midoriya regained his composure. He wouldn't be able to get Shinso's arms off of him, not with the way he locked them together. Instead, Midoriya lifted his legs and wrapped them over Shinso's thighs. He pulled his head into the crook of Shinso's neck before leaning all of his weight backwards. Shinso fell forward. When Midoriya felt the mat against his back, he used the momentum from the fall to roll Shinso onto his back. Shinso had let go of his torso sometime during the fall. Midoriya grabbed them and pinned them over Shinso's head. I win. Shinso rolled his eyes. Good job both of you. Ectoplasm said. You both earn extra credit. Someone from the crowd spoke up. But Shinso didn't win. Why does he get extra credit? I said, try, to pin Midoriya. He obviously has had previous training. I knew he'd win in the end. There were sounds of protest. I also knew that none of you actually have motivation to be in the hero course. Maybe this has given you some. Ectoplasm has them do drill exercises after that. More than once, someone came up to ask him how he fought so well. By the end of class, Midoriya was more than flustered. Shinso caught him on the way out of the gym. Looks like it's me that has to catch up. What are you talking about? You did great. You watched my strategy the entire time. Yeah, and look what good it did me. Midoriya pouted. Then an idea popped into his head. How about this? Meet me here after school and I'll teach you some moves. Oh yeah. Shinso replied. What do you get in return? What did he want? Experimenting. He blurts. Shinso raises an eyebrow. That is to say, can I experiment with your quirk? I have lots of questions. Shinso is silent for a moment. That works, I guess. Cool. See you later then. Shinso chuckled. Yeah, see you later, Midoriya. The two part ways to their next class, and Midoriya never felt happier. Midoriya was surprised by that number of the reporters standing outside the next day. He'd just alighted the train station when he stepped into a human swarm at the Yui gate. From his vantage point, Midoriya saw teachers trying to calm and corral the journalists. He barely walked a foot closer to the gate when someone shoved a camera into his face. What's it like being taught by All Might? The reporter prompted. Is he really as kind as the media says he is? Not in the hero corps. He had not finished his sentence before the reporter lost interest. Midoriya began to push through the reporters, many of whom were not above interrogating children. He bumped into multiple tripods and was yelled at as a result. Finally, Midoriya crossed through the gate. He had never been more glad for the security system. It was the only thing holding the vultures back. Midoriya looked down at his watch and realized the lateness of the hour. He sprinted off into the school building. The bell rang as he walked into his classroom, breathing heavy. Thank you for getting to class on time, Midoriya. Ectoplasm said as Midoriya took a seat. I have a very important announcement for all of you. The students pulled away from their conversations and stared attentively at their teacher. Every class has a student representative and assistant student representative. Midoriya sees Iruku's white eyes light up with excitement across the room. These representatives will work with the teachers to make your school life better. Today we do elections. Ectoplasm passes out note cards for everyone. Writing his own name would be too selfish. He looked over at Aruku. She seemed more excited now than before class started, fidgeting in her chair. Midoriya wrote a name on the paper, then folded it up and handed it to his teacher. Once Ectoplasm received every card, he started tallying on the blackboard. Most students only managed one vote. Likely voted for themselves. Midoriya's eyes tracked down to his name. He held back a gasp. Next to his name marched 3 tallies. His eyes scanned further down the list to see Aruku's name bore a single, lonely mark. Congratulations to Kadakita Geresu, the student representative, and Midoriya Izuku, the assistant representative. Small applause. Aruku looked bummed. Midoriya glanced over at Kadakita. She had 4 votes according to the tally. Her back disdained the chair, ramrod straight. Her pitch hair controlled in a taut bun atop her head, not a single strand out of order. No wonder people voted for her. She exuded the atmosphere of authority. The class filled the silence with chatter. Midoriya ignored the noise and flipped through his notes. Hey! Midoriya turned his head to see Kadakita, standing beside his desk, her phone out. Give me your number. It'll make it easier to communicate, she said, tone monotonous. He gave her his phone without a word. As soon as she punched in his number, she left. The bell rang, signaling the end of class. He picked up his stuff and left the classroom. Maybe today the classes wouldn't be as boring. The classes were definitely boring, but at least this time they were actually being taught stuff. All of the classes the day before had been about testing and baselines. Speaking of baselines, you all did terrible in the places I expected you to be, Izawa says to them. Midoriya could feel his soul deflate. I'm going to hand back your papers and discuss where you went wrong. Midoriya waited for his paper with bated breath. When the paper did come around, Midoriya's eyes landed on the pink pen ink. Good the text read. It underlined his note about bringing heroes to the scene. At the bottom of the page there was another note. Come speak with me after class. Oh boy, that wasn't ominous at all. The main point of the prompt, he pointed to the blackboard with the rewritten scenario, is that you are the citizen. He underlines the word. Somebody tell me what prevents citizens from doing hero work? Midoriya raised his hand. He learned about that the year before, but Izawa did not point to him. Instead, he pointed over at Kadakita, who also had her hand raised. It was the Vigilantism Prevention Act. She said. Izawa nodded. The Vigilantism Prevention Act prohibits people without a hero license from causing harm to villains. Only a handful of you seem to remember this. Izawa took a seat at his desk. This class is here to help you in the real world. You are not likely going to be heroes in the Gen Ed course. Recognizing what to do in that situation will be the best thing you learn this year. To start off, how many of you, in your papers, mentioned anything about bringing actual heroes to the scene? Midoriya raises his hand. Along with him, Shinso and Kadakita put palms in the air. If you are ever confronted with a villain, no matter what your quirk, your first thought should be, how do I get help? Not, how do I win this battle? Because it isn't a battle. Izawa continued to tell them about their errors in perspective and how they should act in a real scenario. Midoriya didn't realize when he'd started writing in his hero journal. Only when his pencil felt heavier did he notice the few remaining pages. He'd have to get a new journal soon. The bell rung, signaling the end of third PRD. Everyone strolled out talking. Shinso gave him a questioning look when he approached Izawa's desk. You wanted to speak to me, sir? Izawa nodded. How often do you analyze these type of situations? That was unexpected. I like going around to villain fights and taking notes. So often, I guess. It's obvious that your work wasn't done to an academic standard. While your notes were detailed and hit the points I wanted, altogether they were a disconnected, garbled mess. Was that supposed to be a compliment? If you want to improve, I suggest taking time to think before you write. You have no brain-to-mouth filter right now, which could cause you problems. Look for what's important and write those down. It might even help that mumbling problem you have. Understand? Yes, sir. Midoriya said. You can leave now. Tell your friends not to loiter on the way out. Midoriya looked over at the door. Shinso stood outside looking at his phone. Iruka didn't even hide the fact that she was waiting. She smiled and waved when his eyes met hers. Hey guys. You know you didn't have to wait for me, right? Shinso shrugged. I wondered what you were talking about. You can't blame me for being curious. Oh, Aizawa was just telling me how I could improve my writing. Midoriya set the pace as they walked to lunch. An alarm blared, halting them in their places. What h? Students ran back and forth. A third year passed Midoriya. He heard her say something about a break-in. The alarm has never gone off before, said another. It only took a few minutes for the hallway to become clogged with Yui students. Everyone tried to follow the procedure for a break-in, but everyone remembered it differently. Multiple, sweaty students took charge in contradicting directions, causing confusion and anxiety. Dikairuku-en, wait! Iruku shouted at him. Midoriya turned his head back to see Iruku by the window. She mouthed something to him, but he couldn't hear. Iruku darted a quick glance out the window and determination set her jaw. Midoriya saw her close her eyes. In the next moment, Midoriya longer weathered the jostling crowd in the hallway. Right now, the world felt blurry. He stood in front of Yui, but he couldn't feel the grass he spied under his feet. Something solid blocked his movement. The gate loomed before him. He saw the reporters, but they were on the opposite side, inside school grounds. They must have triggered the alarm when they crossed without ID. Don't worry. He heard, but not really. It's more like the words formed into his head. They had no voice, but they somehow existed. Be calm. The only intruder is the press. Midoriya did feel calmer. The world melted away to the hallway once more. It was still crowded, but people were no longer pushing and shouting. A whisper of people asked what happened. Midoriya saw Iruku crash to the floor. Are you okay? He pushed his way over to her. She slumped against the out-facing wall, propped on her right hand. I'm tired. She breathed. I tried doing what you said yesterday about dream walking during the day. Doing it to everyone at once may have been a bad idea. Are you kidding? That was great. Now everyone knows not to panic. You never told me that you could walk in multiple people's dreams. It's not like that. I can send dreams to multiple people. I can only walk in one at once. I guess that makes sense. Midoriya pondered. We should get going. The alarm is still going off, so the evacuation is still in process. Shinso and Midoriya helped Iruku to her feet. She wobbled a bit before getting a solid footing. Finally, the mixed-up evacuation protocol got them outside in the rear of the building. Their homeroom teacher took a head count. Ida and Uraraka were also outside. Aizawa finished class 1 as accounting, so Midoriya called them over. Dikairuku-en, are you alright? We didn't see you at lunch. I'm fine. Were you guys in the main hallway by the cafeteria? Uraraka nodded. You should have seen Ida. He used my quirk to get above the crowd so he could calm everyone down. I knew I placed the right vote for our student representative. Why you voted for me? I'm honored. Ida bowed deeply. It's kind of weird though, right? I mean, reporters shouldn't be able to get past that kind of security. I wonder how they did it. Now Uraraka mentioned it, it did seem peculiar. Midoriya would have pondered, were it not for the loudspeaker. Attention everyone. The group turned heads to Principal Nedzu. Thank you for handling this situation with order, he said, surprisingly without a note of sarcasm. We will be ending classes early as a result, but they will pick up tomorrow without delay. Do you want to walk home together, Dikairuku-en? He was about to agree, but something stopped him. Midoriya looked over at Iruku, cheerful again now the tiredness had worn off. I actually have to speak to my teacher. Maybe tomorrow instead. Okay. She skipped off. School was dismissed a few minutes later. Midoriya walked to Ectoplasm's room. The teacher sat at his desk reviewing papers. Ectoplasm? The pro-hero looked up. Yes, what is it, Midoriya? I don't want to be the assistant representative for our class. I think the Ruku would be a better candidate. Ectoplasm appraised him. Why wouldn't you be a good representative? You show excellent focus in class, which is more than I can say about some people. Today during the evacuation, I didn't do anything. I was just swept up into the panic. But Iruku, she took complete control over the situation. I think she'd be a much better leader than me. Just because you can't help all the time doesn't make you a bad leader, Midoriya. If you are sure, then I suggest you talk to Kadakida and Iruku. All right, sir. Midoriya did as his teacher suggested. Kadakida didn't seem to care either way. She told him to forward Iruku's information to her. Iruku, on the other hand, thank you. He'd told her in person. She was now squeezing the life out of him. Almost dying of asphyxiation was becoming a trend, apparently. Homeroom hadn't started yet, so there weren't many people in the class. Iruku finally let go of him when Kadakida came over. We have an announcement to make at the beginning of class. She said to Iruku. I'll talk about it while you hand out the flyers. Kadakida handed Iruku a stack of papers and left. Thanks. She snarked back. Let's take a look at what my emotionally stunted partner has given me. The flyer had big bold lettering on it. The words read, Shadow Program. Underneath the words was a description of where and when to meet for people wanting to join. Shadow Program, huh? Thanks, sounds fun. Iruku said. Midoriya made a noise of agreement. The information about what the program was vague, so Midoriya was glad Kadakida was going to explain it in more detail. Everyone to your seats, your student representative has an announcement for you. Ectoplasm calls. Midoriya hadn't realized when everyone meandered into the room. Kadakida stood at the front of the room looking pristine. Today registration for clubs and other activities open up. There is a special activity only open to general education. It's called the Shadow Program. Iruku distributed the stack of papers. Some kids read them over while others tossed them aside in favor of talking to their friends and ignoring Kadakida. There is only enough room in the program to allow 3 students to shadow. If you get accepted, then you will skip class time to watch the course you are shadowing. It's a great opportunity, especially if you want to transfer. Sign-ups are at the front desk, Kadakida said, sitting down again. Dikairu-kun, we should totally do this. The flyer says we can shadow the hero department. Wouldn't that be awesome? It would. He replied. Midoriya turned to his other friend. Shinso, do you want to do it as well? You aren't going to ask the human thermometer? Shinso retorts. I'm not a thermometer. Besides, skipping class for that probably wouldn't be the best idea for me. I'd never make up the work. Shinso shrugged. Fine. I'll join. Don't give me that. I could see your eyes light up when Kadakida mentioned transfer. You want to do this just as much as I do. Midoriya gave him a knowing grin. Shinso grins back. Maybe so. Midoriya rolled his eyes. The 3 walk up to the front. The sign-up sheet had multiple names already on it. It's probably not going to be the first 3 people that sign up since there's another Gen Ed class, Iruku said as she penned her name. I guess we'll have to see. The flyer instructed them to meet at the gym room after school. Midoriya texted his mom that he'd be staying late. She replied a thumbs-up emoji. There were a bunch of other kids sitting around. Aizawa walked in after them. I don't want to waste my time. Get into groups of 2 or 3, no groups of 4. Come up and tell me which course you want to shadow. Hey, we're already a group of 3. Let's go. Iruku pulls on Midoriya's arm. The 3 of them made their way to Aizawa. We want to shadow the hero course. Midoriya told him. Aizawa wrote something down on a clipboard. Names and quirks. He said monotonously. Iruku-yum. My quirk is Dreamwalk. Iruku said brightly. Shinso Hitoshi. Brainwashing. Shinsu's voice could rival Aizawa's for sheer deadness. My name's Midoriya Izuku. I'm quirkless. Midoriya was surprised when Aizawa didn't even pause his writing. You can head back, he said. Midoriya walked away in slight confusion. The only other person to never question him was Hatsum-sensei. Midoriya wasn't sure how to feel about that. Hey, you're that ninja kid from before. Midoriya turned around and breathed in slightly. The boy in front of him looked eerily like Kaken. The only difference were the black roots into bleached hair. I'm not a ninja, but I guess you're talking about the sparring, right? Man, everyone would have killed to be on your team after that. Then you go pair up with a villain and an airhead. You really think you can win this thing with them? Midoriya frowned. They're my friends, so yes, I do think we can win. The boy laughed. That kind of confidence will get you killed. You want to shadow the heroes, right? Midoriya nodded. That's another thing that'll get you killed. Heroes don't actually give a DMN about saving people. The whole idea of pro-heroes is stupid. If you hate heroes that much, why bother joining the shadow program? Midoriya retorted. I'm shadowing support. Top not over there. He tilts his head over at Kadakida, recognized my name. My parents graduated from support. She's using me so she can transfer there, and in exchange she does my homework for all the classes I miss because of this. It's a win-win scenario. He grins smugly. Oh, I'm sorry, is Atsuko giving you a hard time? A girl sauntered over and leaned on him. Atsuko's grin folds into a snarl. I told you not to call me that. My name is Nakamizu. He pushes the girl off of him. And stop burning me. She just laughed. Kitten here has some anger issues. He thinks he's a tiger. My name's Fuyo Jukimi, resident space heater. Nakamizu yelled profanity at her. Midoriya glanced over at Kadakida. She gazed with resignation at her partners, appearing tired. Her eye twitched nearly imperceptibly. Kadakida walked to Aizawa by herself. When everyone finished forming groups, Aizawa addressed the group again. So, there are 2 teams that wish to shadow the support course and 5 teams that want to shadow heroics. Only one team will get to do the shadowing, so I've put together a competition. Think of it like the entrance exam. There's a physical and a written. We'll do the physical first. Midoriya heard kids groan at the thought of doing physical activity. Aizawa lead them outside. Midoriya gasped. In front of them was a giant. The walls were about half his height. On the left and right side were structures with keys hanging off of them. In his hands, Aizawa held BLNDFLDS and HNDCFFS. Your job is to work as a team to get through the maze and find the keys to your HNDCFFS. There are 2 of them. When you get out, one person will grab one of these. Aizawa lifted a pole from the side wall, indicating the platform on top. You will have to balance a ball on top of this pole and walk to the end of the track. Aizawa pointed to the finish line behind them. Quirks are allowed, but no hurting people. Your score is based on time. Any questions? The teams remained silent, so Aizawa continued. Team leaders, step forward. Shinso and Iruku glanced at Midoriya, so he walked towards Aizawa. His teacher met him halfway and efficiently snapped a set of HNDCFFS to each of his wrists. Then he attached the other ends of each to Shinso and Iruku. One of the HNDCFFS was blue, the other red. A BLNDFLD was placed over each of them. He repeated the procedure for the other teams. You may begin now. Midoriya heard the sound of a stopwatch. Both of his hands were rendered useless with the HNDCFFS. He felt Shinso and Ru pull him along in different directions simultaneously. His thigh hit the wall. Ow, he muttered. His hand darted out to right himself despite the resistance. He felt something bumpy. Whatever it was, Midoriya knew it wasn't a wall. Guys, check this out. He whispered. A hand fell onto his own. He wasn't sure whose. It's an arrow. He heard Shinso say at his right. He felt the symbol. One pointed to the right, another to the left. The middle arrow pointed to the exit where they'd started. We can follow them to the keys. Iruku said. They shuffled to the right. Midoriya stubbed his toes on the walls a few times and hit his hands on the arrow displays even more. The maze didn't look that spacious from the outside, but it sure was taking a while. Shinso pulled him into another turn. He heard Fuyo yelling. We need to go this way. The keys were on the sides. You're blindfolded, you don't know where the sides are. Nakamizu launched back at her. This was a bad idea. Kadakida grumbled. Yeah, you don't say. Nakamizu replied. Suddenly, Midoriya felt something searingly hot run into him. He took a step back. He lost his balance and pitched forward to the ground, pulling Shinso and Iruku with him. They landed on their backs in a tumble. That wasn't my fault. You were in my way. Fuyo again. The least you could do is say sorry. Shinso huffed. Fine, I'm sore, her voice cut out. Midoriya was about to ask what was wrong when Shinso spoke. Stay there for the next 5 minutes. Midoriya didn't need eyes to know he was smirking. Shinso helped him and Iruku off the ground. Hey, you can't do that. I can and I did. Come on. The three babies stepped into another turn. Midoriya felt dizzy from disorientation. Over here. Shinso called. Midoriya heard a cord rip. I got the first key. They walked out of the area. Nakamizu and Kadakida yelled at Fuyo to move. The next arrow display was easy to find. Midoriya was disappointed that he couldn't really do anything in the middle other than talk to them. They had control over his hands and his feet. If he'd known that this was the job of team leader, he wouldn't have picked it. Underneath the BLNDFLD, Midoriya's eyes widened. Aizawa intentionally put him and the other leaders in the middle to inhibit them. It was supposed to be a team activity after all. Clever. They bumped into other groups. Shinso put his quirk to use quite often, telling multiple people to just stand still. If Midoriya hadn't been stressed, he probably would have laughed. They made it to the other key in quick time. Iruku grabbed it. Shinso led them back to the entrance. It took another few minutes of awkward stumbling, but they managed it. When Midoriya felt the walls disappear, he pulls off his BLNDFLD. Shinso and Iruku do the same. The keys are red and blue just like the HNDCFFS. With a small click, the HNDCFFS hit the ground. Midoriya ran over to the pole. Placing a ball at the top, Midoriya took his first step. The pole wobbled a little. Nobody else was in the field, so he had time. He tried another cautious step. The ball didn't fall. Midoriya picked up his pace slightly. The finish line wasn't far. He just had to take a few more steps. Midoriya, back to start. Aizawa said. Midoriya's eyes slipped to his feet. There, the ball rested. He picked it up and returned to the start. It was okay. He'd be more careful this time. Midoriya replaced the ball on the pole. He walked forward. This time would be better, all he had to do was walk. He could do this simple exercise for his team. 3 minutes and he'd reach the halfway mark. A few more steps and they'd win. Midoriya moved slightly faster and this time saw the ball fall in front of his face. Midoriya, back to start. Midoriya took a deep breath. It was fine. They still had the lead. Third time's the charm, right? He started again. He has to do this. He walked slower than before, barely inching along. Yet as he reached his fail place, his nerves caused his hands to slip. Down came the ball. Midoriya, back to start. Midoriya's heart pounded. He deliberately avoided looking at his teammates. What must they be thinking? He told himself he still had time. They had the lead, or so he thought. Just to the right of him, Kadakida made the halfway mark. Her hands were noticeably steadier than his. He hadn't even realized she'd shown up. He trotted to the start line. Midoriya wanted to win so badly. But right now, Kadakida had the obvious lead, and not just in distance. Shinso, can you go instead? I don't think I can beat her. Shinso looked surprised but nodded. Midoriya felt his anxiety set in. Shinso had a lot of distance to recoup in his wake. The realization that they wouldn't win chilled him. It hit Midoriya like a punch to the ribs. Shinso and Kadakida both tread at the same, measured pace. He'd never be able to pass her. Team Kadakida, 16 minutes 36 seconds, Aizawa announced as she crossed. Fuyo cheered and Midoriya saw Kadakida finally show emotion in the way of a small smile. Despite being sad over the loss, Midoriya knew she deserved it. Team Midoriya, 17 minutes 4 seconds. Midoriya looked over to see Shinso at the finish line. Iruku cheered loudly and ran over. Forcing a laugh to hide his shame, Midoriya followed. I'm really sorry, guys. We would have won if I hadn't screwed up. Midoriya scratched his head. Second place isn't that bad. Shinso replied. Besides, we can still make it up in the written. I still feel bad though. It's my fault we even have to make it up. They walked to the picnic tables arranged on field. Kadakida's team was already there. That took forever. Fuyo whined. Stop crying, we won. Nakamizu said. He turned his head to them when he saw Midoriya approach. "See, I told you that you would lose. Should have picked a better team. It wasn't their fault we got second, it was mine. We're still going to beat you in the written." Midoriya said. "So you say." The other teams began to filter through the maze. Others had problems with the poll. Aizawa called out their times and places. As teams finished, the students joined them at the tables and made light conversation. Midoriya heard the disappointment they tried to hide in their voices. Not making first was a hard pill to swallow. "Good job. Now we begin the written," Aizawa said when the last group passed the finish line. He handed each person a small packet. The questions inside were simple, all multiple choice. The topics were basically a middle school academic review. When Midoriya finished, he handed the test to Aizawa. The teacher took it and started to grade it immediately. The students were silent when everyone finished. The only sound were a few birds and the soft scratches of Aizawa's pen. Midoriya could tell by the other students' expressions that they wanted to discuss the test. Nobody was brave enough to break the tension. Aizawa's voice came suddenly. "Let's head back inside, and I'll announce who won." The students walked in as a bulge, finally talking and laughing about silly mistakes they'd made. "I have averaged your scores. The time you got on the maze gave each test bonus points. The winning team is Kadakata's. They will get to shadow support." They'd lost. Of course they did. Well, at the very least, he'd have other chances to prove himself. He'd cost his friends their win. They'd earned the opportunity, but he'd not been able to control his emotion. It hadn't even required a quirk. Just calm and focus. And he still screwed it up. Midoriya stood to leave the gym when Aizawa spoke again. The second highest score was Team Midoriya. They will be shadowing for heroics. What? Midoriya's head shot up. He stared at Aizawa. But sensei, didn't you say only one team would win? One student asked. "I did say that. I wanted you to put your all into this, and the only way you would is if you thought it was a single slot. Really, it's the winning teams for each course that get to the shadow program. Kadakata's team will shadow support and Midoriya's will shadow heroics." It was a logical ruse. Aizawa picked up the papers and stalked out of the gym. "We did it," Midoriya said, stunned. Iruku's face broke out into a giant smile. She pulled both him and Shinso into a big hug. Shinsu's face of discomfort and confusion at the hug nearly made Midoriya laugh. "I can't wait to start doing hero-y things with you guys." Iruku says. "Oh, I should probably go. My mom's cooking dinner and she doesn't want me to be out late. See ya." One by one, students left. Today was a start to something great, Midoriya thought. Aizawa was tired. Usually he'd take a nap after school so that he wouldn't be dead during his night shift at the agency. The shadow program completely threw off his schedule. Outside, Hizashi waited for him. His hair was down in a more casual appearance today. "Hey Asho. Thought you'd want a lift." Hizashi called to him. Aizawa made a noise of disgruntled agreement. "So how'd the thing go? Those kids seem faster than last year." Hizashi said once they got into the car. They were. "Kadakata and her team are shadowing support and Midoriya and his team are shadowing my class." Hizashi looked surprised. "Two teams? That's odd. Ever since you first sponsored the shadow program, you made it clear it was only 3 people who advanced. Why the change?" Aizawa leaned back in his passenger seat. The hardest thing to teach is knowing when to stop. Midoriya understood that his frustration at losing was hurting his team, so he took a step back. He could have kept going, but it would have made things worse for his team. He has potential. The great Eraserhead thinks a student has potential. What high praise. You know you could have just said it was favoritism, right? Aizawa glared at him. Or you can just be super philosophical. Yuryu, can you introduce me to this kid sometime? It's not often that you actually like a student. Fine. Just let me sleep for now. Okay, I'll stop. Aizawa had a feeling that Midoriya was going to be the death of him, indirectly or directly. Hopefully the kid wouldn't do anything stupid on the field trip like bring that rat. 13 would freak out if they saw that thing. Aizawa closed his eyes and felt the lull of the car put him to sleep. Walking into school, Midoriya noticed the lack of reporters. They probably didn't want to be arrested again. Midoriya saw a familiar bob of pink hair beyond the gate. "Hey, Izuku. Guess what I got you?" Mei said. "Something that could potentially kill me?" "It's the gauntlets. I fixed them." Mei held out the white gloves. "I even put a life seal on them. They can survive a hurricane now." "I have no idea why you think I'm just going to stand outside in a hurricane, Mei." He rolled his eyes. "You never know." Midoriya laughed. They made their way up to their respective classrooms, splitting up at a junction in the hallway. Ectoplasm's classroom was boisterous, as usual. Tenso spied him, eyes bright. "Congrats, Midoriya. I heard you got into the shadow program," he said. "Yeah, it was really close." Homeroom was normal for the most part. Ectoplasm silenced them. Kodakita and Iruku gave an announcement to the class about the winners of the shadow program, and then everyone conversed quietly. The mundane morning broke when the door opened, and in came Aizawa. "Midoriya, Shinso, and Iruku, your shadowing begins today. Follow me." Upon delivering the edict, he turned on his heel and left the room. Shinso blinked at Midoriya. "Should we take our bags? Do we need anything?" Midoriya shrugged, shouldered his bag, and bounded down the aisle, bumping classmates' shoulders in his zeal. Iruka beat him to the door as Shinso raced to catch up. Aizawa guided them through the hallways at a brisk pace. "You will be missing the entire day, so any work you miss will need to be made up," he said without turning. Or pausing. "If your grades drop, you will be removed from the program. Do not embarrass me." He led them outside where a white transit bus idled by the curb. Class 1A students milled around it. "Everyone, these are the Gen Ed students shadowing your class. We will be leaving shortly, so get on," Aizawa said. Uraraka and Ida looked up from their conversation and smiled at him. "Midoriya, I must thank you for those notes on my engine. My brother thought they were amazing." Ida bowed deeply. "His maneuverability has improved drastically. You've really helped him." "I'm glad. I could work with the both of you sometime if you want. That is, if it's okay with your brother, of course." Ida nodded. "I think that is a great idea. We can plan something after the field trip." Students filed onto the bus. The small group of friends he'd accumulated followed. The bus was large on the inside, with enough seats for everyone. Midoriya had Iruku and Shinso beside him while Uraraka and Ida buckled in across the aisle. Aizawa climbed on and addressed the group. "We are going to leave now, but first I need a tenda." A small squeak at Aizawa's feet stopped him. Ayam was sniffing Aizawa's toes. He took a very tired breath. "Midoriya, I told you not to bring the rat to school." He ran a hand down his face. "Actually, Ayam belongs to me." Iruku spoke up. "She just really likes Midoriya. I don't care who the rat belongs to, why is it here? She's my emotional support." Iruku said, Okay fine, just keep her on the bus. Don't bring her with you." Aizawa sighed. "I'm going to take attendance." Names are called as Iruku scooped Ayam up and into her bag. "You should invest in a better cage," Shinso said. "I know, I just keep forgetting." Aizawa finished roll call. He went to the front of the bus and wrapped himself up in a sleeping bag. He was out like a light. They began to move. "So, you guys are from Gen Ed. What's it like?" asked a student. He was blonde save for the black streak in the shape of a lightning bolt. "We mostly have standard academic classes. The shadowing is special." Midoriya replied. "That's so cool." A black-haired boy said, "How hard was it to join? You guys must be really talented." Midoriya heard a scoff. He knew that voice. It sent a shiver down his spine. "Deku isn't talented. He's a useless piece of sheet." Kaken says. "Come on, Bakugu, that's mean." A spiky red head said. "He can't do anything right. I have no clue how he got his quirkless but into the school in the first place. The teachers probably pitted him or something." Midoriya remained silent, accustomed to Kaken ridicule. He tensed, counting the seconds until other voices joined the laughter. They tire of the mockery soon enough. His mom encouraged him to speak up to Kaken, but Kaken's derision didn't affect him anymore. He had proof of his talents. Deku is a complete idiot. His friends are probably no better. You shouldn't go near them or you'll lose brain cells. In the rearview mirror, Kaken had a vicious smirk on his face like he believed he owned the situation. Something in Midoriya snapped. Don't you dare say that. Midoriya shouted, turning in his seat, straining the restraints. Kaken looked taken aback, before his smirk rolled into a snarl. You better keep that big mouth of yours shut, Deku, or you'll what? Burn me? Push me down a hill? Beat my face in? Tell me to, oh how did you put it that day, take a swan dive of the roof? Midoriya's eyes bore into Kaken's. You know, I don't quite remember what you said. Why don't you remind me? Faces twisted into surprise and shock. Some even looked disgusted. Nobody said a word. Go ahead, Kaken. Tell me to kill myself. You had no problem doing it in front of your friends back then. Is it because you're not the top dog anymore? Kaken's face twisted in muted rage. Midoriya continued. All my life, you flaunted your amazing quirk in my face, telling me I was nothing. Well, guess what, Kaken? I'm tired of it. In this race to being a hero, I began 100 miles from the starting line while teachers and adults gave you the head start. Now I'm here, so you need to understand, this idiot's quirkless but is going to be a hero no matter what. If you want to be a hero with me, you need to stop acting like a villain. Kaken was livid. He bared his teeth. You want to FNG go, Deku? I'll kill you. Kaken stood up and stalked toward him. Midoriya unfastened his seatbelt. In a fluid movement, he lifted from his seat in defiance. I've lived with your petty insults and threats for years, Katsuki. You can't do anything to me anymore, so don't you dare insult my friends. They don't deserve your abuse. Katsuki clenched his fist, sparks beginning to fly. Midoriya saw the swing coming and closed his eyes. The punch didn't come. Midoriya opened his eyes to see Aizawa awake from his nap. Aizawa's capture scarves were wrapped around Katsuki's fist and torso. His bright red eyes intimidated Midoriya. I don't know what history the two of you had and right now I don't really care. This is a school-sanctioned field trip. Any behavior unacceptable there is unacceptable here. You two are going to have a long, uncomfortable chat with me when we get back. Sit down. Midoriya did as told. Iruku placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. He smiled in thanks. Deku-kun, did Bakugo really tell you to? Uraraka whispered. It was a while ago. I'm fine now. It was a while ago doesn't excuse what he did. You don't deserve his abuse either. Shinso said. Thanks. Midoriya said, taking a deep breath. The rest of the ride was mostly silent. Tension thickened the air. Some people made light banter, but it felt clunky and awkward. Midoriya knew Uraraka and Ida wanted to ask a billion questions but he refused to look at either of them. He regretted yelling at Katsuki even though he deserved it. Katsuki. Not Kaken. Midoriya looked over at the boy who'd once been his best friend. He had so desperately wanted things to go back to normal between them. Guess that would never happen. Midoriya glanced out of the window and saw the USJ dome. The building was huge, rising into the sky to meet the clouds. When the bus stopped, Aizawa had them file off and into the building. The arena was an open expanse with staged disaster settings littering the area as far as the eye could see. Midoriya had to suppress a gasp as his eyes roamed over the place. They stood on a raised platform striped in yellow, red, yellow carpet overlooking a half a dozen themed zones. Midoriya saw Pro Hero 13 say something to Aizawa. Midoriya could barely hear them, but he swore 13 had said All Might. 13 held up 3 fingers. Midoriya was curious. Would All Might show up in 3 hours? Good morning, everyone. 13 said as Aizawa strolled to the back of the student group. Today, you will be learning about a job performed by heroes that is equally as important as fighting villains, search and rescue. The USJ facility has many different terrains from which to learn. Aizawa said next. You will be split into teams of heroes and injured. The Gen Ed students would be taking notes on strategy, execution, creativity, and teamwork and are required to suggest improvements, many of which may be incorporated into future training. Before we begin, there are some guidelines. first, but Midoriya wasn't listening anymore. Instead, his eyes focused on the pool of black mist swirling in dead center of the arena. It grew by the second. Sensei? 13 stopped talking, searching for the voice. Midoriya pointed to the mist. What is that thing? 13 frowned, and slowly twisted around. The mist expanded exponentially, looming, gaining in size and stature on the buildings. Bodies emerged from the inky black. It was a warp gate. Everyone get back! Aizawa shouted. He put on his goggles. Those are villains. Kaminari, see if you can call for help. Midoriya spun to watch Aizawa speed over the ground through the students to stand in front of them. You're not going to fight them, are you? I thought you only specialized in a surprise attack against 1 or 2 villains. There are loads of them down there. I wouldn't be a hero if I only had one trick, Midoriya. 13, get the children to safety. With that, Aizawa's quirk activated. His capture scarves tangled in the air. Aizawa leaped off the platform and soared down to meet the villains. The villains had little to no experience in combat without quirks. Aizawa hadn't even touched down before he'd already taken out 3 of them. Aizawa wrapped his scarf around one villain and swung him into the ones currently charging him. With his eyes covered by the goggles, none of the villains knew whose quirks were being erased until Aizawa knocked them out. For someone who didn't fight large groups, Aizawa was doing a number to them. Midoriya, come on. There's no time to analyze. Midoriya turned around to see the others running away with 13. Ida had stayed back to get him. The class sprinted to the exit, 13 in front. Suddenly, the black mist took form before the doors. Midoriya stared at what he could only assume were the warp gate's yellow eyes. My name is Kurogiri. We are the League of Villains, said the warp gate. Our information said All Might would be present. Has there been a change? What did they want with All Might? Midoriya thought. 13 told them to stay back, but Katsuki and the redhead don't listen. Katsuki launches an explosion at the warp gate, filling the platform with dark smoke. The mist clouded around them. Ida! He shouted. Midoriya couldn't see anyone anymore, just the murky black abyss. Iruku was not having a good time. She came to the field trip expecting normal class shenanigans and fun hero work. Fighting villains was not on her to-do list. The weird portal guy had dropped her off in the ruins sector. Crumbling buildings loomed over her. Rusty paint peeled from the sidings. The pavement, if it could be called that, was cracked and uneven. She saw more loose stones here than she'd see in gravel. An explosion drew her attention. Her eyes widened as a piece of cement flew through the air, aimed right at her. Iruku ran and didn't stop to look back. The ground shook when the boulder rammed into the road. The terrain opened up and Iruku fell. She rolled downhill and felt a sharp pain spike through her legs. She tumbled to a stop at a plateau in the area. Iruku's vision spun. She pushed herself up. Ack! She grimaced. Stars of pain blotted her eyes. She craned her neck to her leg. Her femur pierced her skin. Blood trickled down the wound like syrup and just as sticky. Iruku gagged as iron filled her nose. Her breakfast came up in a yellow-brown stain on the surface of the ruined road. Help! She croaked. I can't move. There were voices in the distance. 2 of them. Help! Feet slapped the concrete faster. 2 people came into vision. Oh my God, that doesn't look good. The redhead said. Bakugu, you know first aid, right? Iruku recognized the boy called Bakugu. Midoriya had yelled at him on the bus. You don't touch me. She sneered as he approached. Oh my effing God. He said. Do you want to bleed out instead? You are just making yourself a bigger goddamn liability. Fine. Bakugu yanked some rebar out of solid concrete. Take off your shirt. I'm not going to do that. It's already FING ripped. I need to wrap a splint with it. Iruku grudgingly removes the tattered gym uniform top. Bakugu tears of a piece of the shirt and shoves it into Iruku's mouth. Iruku's leg squelches as the bone is pushed back into it. The fabric muffled her screams of pain. With the bone back in, Bakugu ties the rebar to her leg, creating a makeshift splint. Shitty hair, you carry her? The redhead comes over to her and wraps his arms around Iruku's middle. Why did you take his insults? Bakugo doesn't actually mean anything by that. It's just what he calls me. My name's Kirishima. He smiled. Iruku. They walk along the broken path. Kirishima made good conversation while Bakugo remained silent. Bakugo froze. Well, how do you do? Came a sickly cheerful voice. In front of them stood a man. A mask covered half of his face, the other half twisted into a chilling grin. I don't pride myself on hurting children, but Shigaraki is counting on me to do my job. So sorry we can't stay and chat. Shitty hair, step back, I got this one. Step back? Iruku glares at him. Just because she had a broken leg didn't mean she was done for. Iruku would not sit there and do nothing. She had this one. Iruku looks into the eyes of the villain. His arms had morphed into long blades. Her reality melted away. Daytime dream walking differed from nighttime. The first image isn't that of a dream but of what the man saw. It's her own body held up by Kirishima and Bakugo preparing to attack. The villain was still awake, but she had full access to his thoughts. Making pleasant dreams was easy. People kept the things they loved most at the forefront of their mind. Iruka hated making nightmares. She hated the journey it took to find what someone feared. It was always hidden deep and it caused her pain to experience. His greatest fear was trypophobia. Holes were easy to make. Iruku lifted herself out of his mind. Her vision was once again of the villain. He had started a monologue or something, since Bakugo still hadn't attacked. Iruku started small. She wanted to build the nightmare realistically, so the first holes she made popped up in the surroundings. She felt confusion in the villain's mind. She makes them grow larger, sking up rocks in close proximity. Adrenaline filled up the villain's brain, but he still had control of him. She opened a hole in Bakugo's forehead. Blood streamed out like a waterfall. Their attacker's heart pounded and he stepped backward. All monologuing ceased as he jabbed a finger at the hole out to Bakugo. Iruku created the illusion of Bakugo's eyes rolling into his skull, leaving empty black sockets in their place. Blood flowed like tears. She gave Kirishima a similar makeover, and then started forming bloody holes in other places on their bodies. It was safe to say that the villain was freaking out. He averted his eyes from the scene. Now he was looking down at his sword arms. Iruku opened holes in them as well. The man screamed. An unnatural amount of blood pooled at his feet. He couldn't escape it. The blood was drowning him. Black swirled in the vision. Within a few seconds, he was out like a light. What the F was that? Iruku came to a moment later, back in her own body. The one thing she could never do was be in the mind of someone unconscious. She felt like she had woken from a long nap. I have no clue. Kirishima replied. I made him hallucinate drowning in his blood. Iruku spoke up. There was silence as the boys took in her words. It's my quirk. Wow. Remind me not to get on your bad side. Kirishima laughed awkwardly. He sidestepped the villain, collapsed on the ground, and continued walking. Come on, Bakugo, we have to find the others. Iruku took pride in the dumbstruck look plastered on Bakugo's face. Served him right. Midoriya felt like he was floating in the air. Darkness surrounded his field of vision. He couldn't tell what was up or down. The mist finally gave way to light. He's falling. Midoriya didn't have time to take in his surroundings. He hit water feet first. It rushed into his eyes and mouth and nose. He felt the burn in his lungs almost immediately. Someone was in the water, and not a good someone by the way they were charging him. He tried to swim away, but his swimming skills were minuscule compared to the person following him. There's a green blur. There's another person, one Midoriya remembered from the bus. She knocked out the other person without hesitation. A long tongue comes out of her mouth. It wrapped around his torso and pushed him above the water. She placed him down on the boat. This was the shipwreck sector. The tongue came up again, but this time she more or less slammed the person into the boat. She came up a moment later. My name is Azui Tsuyu. She said. Midoriya Izuku. It's nice to meet you, Azui. Call me Tsuyu Karo. Okay, Tsuyu-chan. Midoriya looked over the railing. 20-something villains floated in the water. They looked like they were just waiting. Can you guys tell me your quirks? We need to think of a plan of attack. You want to attack them? The other boy said. You'll get us all killed. My quirk is frog. I can climb and my tongue is very long. You said you were quirkless before. Midoriya nodded. My quirk is sticky ball. The boy said. They grown on my head and they stick to everything except me. How the hell did this kid make it into 1A? Midoriya thought. See? I told you we're going to die. My quirk is totally useless for battle and you're freaking quirkless. The boy whined. Midoriya stopped listening to him. He looked back out at the villains in the water. Asked Tsuyu, you said your quirk was frog? Tsuyu nods. But that doesn't make sense. Why would they put you in a water zone? You are right, they should have put me with fire. Maybe they don't know our quirks. The villains don't know about their quirks. More importantly, they don't know he's quirkless. Midoriya looks down at his gauntlets. I have an idea. Tsuyu, can your tongue reach the water slide? I believe so. I need you to swing us from it. Follow my lead. Midoriya climbed onto the railing. Some of villains' expressions changed. They were overestimating their chances. Midoriya pointed the gauntlet at them, fingers outstretched. He clenched the fingers down onto the trigger. A bolt of lightning discharged. The sector appeared darker when compared to the blinding light. The bolt hit the water and Midoriya heard screams. Water boiled rapidly around the lightning. Midoriya couldn't see all of them, but those villains he did see contorted in pain. They fell below the water as they lost control of their muscles. Midoriya felt a tug at his middle and soon his feet are no longer on the boat. Tsuyu swung them away while the boy threw ball after ball at the villains. Shinso emerged from the mist disoriented. He recognized that he was falling, but where he was falling to evaded him. The drop was shorter than he expected. His head rammed into an outstretched rock. Shinso groaned in pain. His hand met something sticky on his forehead. He slowly rose his feet. Where was he? He could see the USJ dome, so he still had to be inside. A rocky mountain towered behind him. Mountain sector was his best bet. Ice darted past him. He jumped out of the way just in time for it to coat the surroundings. Shinso followed the origins of the ice. He took root behind a large rock. One of the hero kids was decimating the villains by the handful. A villain ran at him from behind. The kid moved out of the way with grace and grabbed the spear. The villain froze solid. I'm not interested in hurting everyone, the kid spoke to one of the villains. But that ice will kill your cells from the outside in. It's in your best interest to tell me what you know. F you. The villain shouted. I won't tell you anything about the league. But they certainly did not have time for this. Hey, dipshit. Shinso called as he walked out from behind the rock. The villain sneered at him. The FO, his eyes went white, and Shinso felt his hold on the villain's mind snap into place. Tell us everything about you and this league of villains. Shinso orders. Our leader is Shigaraki Tamura. He wants to kill All Might. The villain spoke monotonously. Our job is to keep the kids spread out so that they cannot fight. You did that terribly. The kid said. Besides, All Might isn't here. Shigaraki has these creations, Numas he calls them, that are as strong as him. He will not stand a chance. I never thought I'd see the day when someone doubts All Might. Shinso said. We need to find Midoriya. He said to the kid beside him. The quirkless kid? Yes. Shinso notes the lack of a judging tone. Listen. He's probably figured out they want to kill All Might by now and is making a plan that will possibly kill himself instead. An explosion in the distance echoed from the shipwreck zone and Shinso looked up in time to see a familiar green blur. Case in point. He gestured to it. God damn it, Midoriya. Fortunately, Ida had not been in the mist. He, along with a few others, avoided it and were behind 13. Kids, stay back. 13 shouted. They activated their quirk black hole. The vortex escaped in the black mist surrounding them. Some of the students cheered. You are a rescue hero, 13. The warp gate said. It makes sense that you would have very little combative experience. Ida felt a pull of wind behind him. He turned around to see one of the warp gates. Ida. Ida turned to Uraraka. She stood directly in front of the portal. It was pulling her in. "I've got you!" he shouted. Ida ran over to her and grabbed her arms. Uraraka's feet were pulled up by the force of the black hole. He was not strong enough to pull her out of the current. The black hole pulled her continuously. Her shoes were ripped apart. Skin peeled off her newly barred feet. 13. "You have to stop," he yelled. The wind pressure died a moment later. Ida and Uraraka collapsed. "Uraraka, are you okay?" he asked her. Uraraka's feet were raw with blood. She silently screamed with teeth grit and face in a grimace, clearly struggling to hold back tears. The black hole had done more damage than he expected from such a distance. "My quirk is useless against him," 13 said. "I can't do anything if he can just redirect it. Class rep, you must get help from the heroes. I can't leave her like this." He points to Uraraka, who was now biting her lower lip with a vengeance, eyes tight closed. "I should stay here since I'm the leader people are counting on." He floundered around, searching for something to wrap her feet with. Their hero outfits were too tight to rip off. "We are counting on you to get help from the heroes," 13 said. "I can watch Uraraka," Ashido said, dashing over. "My acid quirk certainly can't help her, but I can carry her. I'm strong." "You can do this, Ida." Uraraka smiled. "We believe in you." Ida's resolve broke. He nodded to them and let Uraraka fall into Ashido's arms. "You all really aren't smart. I can hear all of your plans," Kurogiri says. Ida fired his engines. He zipped past Kurogiri. Ahead of him, a portal formed and he was headed straight for it. The movement he took felt natural. One engine cut off and the other propulsed him into a sharp turn. His engine turned on again, and he picked up his run, completely missing the portal. When another portal popped up, Ida repeated the move. He ramped up his engines, now going twice as fast. Ida reached the door and pulled it open. He zoomed out right before Kurogiri got there. Outside, Ida had no limits, so he focused every ounce of energy he could summon into the engines. He had to find All Might. Everyone was counting on him. Midoriya waded through the shallow water. Tsuyu had swung them far away from the shipwreck. They were close to the center of the dome now. Aizawa was taking out villains left and right, but he was slowing down. Aizawa nailed a hit into the villain's seeming leader. He was covered in disembodied hands. One of them fell off his torso. "You are so cool, Eraserhead," the leader said. He grabbed Aizawa's elbow. Midoriya gasped as the skin turned gray before falling off entirely. What remained of the elbow was a bloody mess of decayed skin. Aizawa broke away from his grip. Some lesser villains had surrounded him. Aizawa activated his quirk and threw one to the ground. He turned around and took a step back. In front of him was a monstrosity. The beast reached forward and grabbed Aizawa's face. Midoriya saw blood. Aizawa's goggles fell to the ground. His legs were shaking. Midoriya wanted to scream and help him, but he couldn't move. Aizawa's face slammed into the concrete. "Do you like my Numu, Eraserhead? He's as strong as All Might is. Tell me, where is All Might? He was supposed to be here. I know that you know where he is." Numu slammed Aizawa's head again. "Tell me." The warp gate appeared behind the leader. "Shigaraki, we have a problem." "A problem?" One of the kids escaped. "It's only a matter of time before the heroes arrive." "Escaped? You let one escape." Shigaraki started scratching his throat. "Kurogiri, if you weren't a warp gate I would disintegrate you." Shigaraki hung his head. "I guess this is game over. We have to leave." What did they mean by game over? Midoriya thought. They couldn't leave like that, could they? It seemed too improbable. Why go through all the trouble of breaking into Yui only to flee when things soured? "Before we go, we should leave All Might a present." Shigaraki looked at him and Tsuyu. He started walking forward at them. Midoriya was frozen, reminded of the entrance exam. He'd been frozen then too. This time, though, the fear was so much more visceral. It permeated his skin right to his core. He looked at Tsuyu to his left. Her body shook as he approached. Midoriya saw her face in his mind, skin flaking away into nothingness like Aizawa's elbow. Use that head of yours and you'll be fine. Hatsum-sensei's voice filled his mind. But he didn't have time to afraid. Midoriya lifted his gauntlet into the air as Shigaraki raised his own. The world progressed in slow motion. His fingers gripped down on the trigger. Shigaraki was thrown back several feet. His body convulsed as the electricity passed through him. His muscles seized, but he didn't scream. There was just laughter. The spell had broken on Midoriya's legs. He raced out of the water to Shigaraki. Midoriya rammed his fist into Shigaraki's jaw, making the man hit the ground again. Midoriya landed another one as he tried to stand up. "I won't let you hurt my friends," he yelled. Shigaraki was angry. He reached out a hand which Midoriya batted away. His other hand grabbed Midoriya's right forearm. After years of being bullied, Midoriya thought he knew pain. He was woefully wrong. A scream ripped through his throat as he collapsed to his knees. His arms seared where Shigaraki made contact. Warm blood flowed down to his fingers. Then the pain stopped. His arm throbbed, but Shigaraki's quirks stopped digging in further. Midoriya wrenched his arm away. "You really are cool, Eraserhead," Shigaraki said. Aizawa's head was raised, blood coating his face from a multitude of cuts. His eyes were bright red. He erased Shigaraki's quirk as he grabbed Midoriya. Numu pushed Aizawa back into the ground. Midoriya punched Shigaraki's face again. His arm hurt, but he wasn't out of commission yet. "Numu!" Shigaraki yelled. Not even a second later, and Numu was there, blocking his hit. Numu grabbed his good arm. Midoriya felt his elbow shatter. It hurt like hell. His arm is bent into the wrong direction. Numu threw him to the ground. Midoriya lifted the arm. Numu didn't break, though he wanted to curl it into himself. It bled from Shigaraki's hold, but he could still use it. Midoriya clenched down on the trigger in his gauntlet and nothing. No bolt of electricity came out. He tried again. "Goddamn it, May." She told him that it could survive a hurricane, but omitted the key fact that each gauntlet could only discharge once. Brilliant. Numa dropped his foot down onto Midoriya's arm. If his arm worked before, it didn't now. Throbbing, searing pain extended up to his shoulder. Numu moved away and Midoriya saw how what once had been an arm was now a useless piece of ripped flesh. Feeling receded, alarming more than the pain had. Midoriya felt nothing in his arm. "That can't be good. I win. I don't really care if I kill All Might now. Seeing one of his students' mangled body will break him. It perfect." Shigaraki stalked toward him. This wasn't the end. Midoriya had to do something. But his arms were destroyed and his gauntlets had no juice. He refused to give up. What could he do? "I wouldn't be a hero if I only had one trick." He didn't have to use his arms to fight. Shigaraki raised a hand above him. Midoriya threw up his feet and kicked it away. He used the momentum of his legs to flip back onto his feet. Shigaraki's expression was hard to gauge with the hand over his face, but Midoriya made out the gape of his mouth. He had not expected Midoriya to rise. Midoriya spun around and kicked Shigaraki's face. He got up quickly, stars popping behind his eyes, but he ignored them. Midoriya headbutted him on the forehead back to the ground. Shigaraki looked mad again. Midoriya suspected that he would activate his quirk like he did before. Shigaraki did exactly as Midoriya predicted, and this time Midoriya knew how to dodge accordingly. He ducked down and struck his leg into Shigaraki's ribcage. The man bent over and threw up whatever he ate that morning. With Shigaraki occupied, Midoriya ran to Aizawa, useless arms swinging like double pendulums at his side. The movement sent waves of indescribable pain right into his brain, but he pushed forward, thankful feeling had returned. "Aizawa, it's okay. Everything's okay. I'm here." Midoriya panted. "You sound like All Might, kid." Aizawa rasped. "You could have been killed running head first into a villain like that. The important thing here is that I haven't." Midoriya looked over at Tsuyu. "You guys have to get him back to 13. I'll stay and fight." "Like hell you are," Aizawa said. "If I go back, so do you." "I'm not letting someone die on my watch." Midoriya was about to argue when a metallic bang filled the air. At the top of the platform stood All Might. Midoriya felt the collective sigh of relief. "Everything will be all right." All Might's voice boomed in the silence. But, because I am here. Midoriya had heard those words over 1,000 times and they still did wonders to his moral. Finally, Shigaraki sighed. The game starts now. Toshinori was never the smartest hero in the field. He trusted his gut more than he trusted a carefully thought-out plan. A plan could go haywire right when things got dicey, and then he'd be in for trouble. His gut had told him to go to the USJ, even though Principal Nedzu told him to rest. It wasn't like he'd exhaust himself. He could stretch his 10 minutes as long as he stayed in the back. A body slammed into him. He really needed to stay out of his head. All Might, you have to help. Young Ida, what is the problem? You're supposed to be at the USJ. Ida was breathing very slowly. The kid closed his eyes as he gathered his thoughts. The USJ, he spoke between breaths, is under attack. By villains. Toshinori's blood ran cold. Villains? How did they get through security? Toshinori schooled his expression. He had to wear the fake smile so long as it helped young Ida. They said they were looking for you. Ida sighed, less winded. Go to Nedzu. He'll inform the other teachers. Ida nodded sharply. He turned and revved up his engines. You are very brave, young Ida. Ida paused for a moment, but didn't turn around. The poor child had so much weight on his shoulders. Thank you, sir. Ida was gone in the blink of an eye. The smile dropped from Toshinori's face. Contrary to popular belief, he didn't always smile when he fought villains. He only did it for Bikai and to reassure civilians. The idea that someone would willing torture children just to get to him enraged him. One for All strained his muscles as he raced toward the U. He had 10 minutes. Less if the villains posed real fights and he needed to use more power. The USJ dome rose above the horizon. Toshinori did not stop his run. Instead he threw a punch into the air. The wind pressure knocked the doors open. All eyes were on him as he spoke his signature line. A group of students on the platform looked to him with relief. Some cried, tears outlining their smiles. But Toshinori himself held no such smile. His students and friends have been through so much today. He had never felt so angry. Toshinori channeled one for all through his body. Power hummed beneath his skin, but stabbed at his injury. He released the power and he dashed through the mob of villains. Time slowed down as he moved. He landed blow after blow to unexpected villains. Their heads contorted as the pressure threw them back several feet. At the center, Toshinori grabbed the students he saw plus Aizawa. The students all looked around, dazed by the new surroundings. Bring him to 13. Them busy until reinforcements arrive, he told them. Don't hurt yourself any more than you need to. Aizawa mumbled. His face was nearly unrecognizable from all the blood and swelling purple blotches. All Might, sir, their leader said the giant Numu was just as strong as you. Be careful, a student said. This student wasn't a part of Class 1A. Where did he recognize the boy from? Don't worry about me, my boy. Toshinori replied. Worry about your own safety. Go on now. He turned around to face the leader. If Toshinori still had a stomach, it would have churned from seeing all of those hands. Toshinori leaped forward. One for all rose into his arms. Carolina smash. He punched the villain. Wind swirled the concrete dust below him. Toshinori looked up, but did not see the leader. Instead, a creature twice his height stood unharmed from his attack. Toshinori punched it again, but it did not even budge. Hitting its body didn't do anything, so maybe the head instead? Punching its face just made it angry. It must be a shock absorption quirk. Hitting Numu isn't going to do anything. The best strategy would be to gouge his flesh, but he won't let you do that. The leader laughed. Gouge his flesh, huh? Thanks for the tip. Toshinori shouts back. Toshinori grabbed Numu by the torso and lifted. He leaned backwards and slammed the body into the ground. Dust filled the air, but something was wrong. There was an uncomfortable pressure on his injury. The dust cleared away. A portal had formed where he had slammed Numu. It gripped his injury and dug its fingers deeper into the freshly opened wound. Toshinori grimaced in pain as his shirt soaked through with blood. The villains laughed. You move too quickly for us to see, All Might. That's why we made Numu. He was there to keep you occupied while. The warp gate spoke. My job is to close my portal with you inside and kill you. Toshinori struggled with the hand on him. He had to pull it off. Numu held a firm grip upon him and would not budge. All Might. A student ran at him. Toshinori remembered. That was the kid he saved from the sludge villain. Toshinori has given him a note encouraging him to be a hero. Now, he was running to help Toshinori, just like a true hero would. Toshinori felt proud. The kid ran with a strange, arm-flailing gait. Must have something to do with his quirk. He couldn't wait to see what it was. Midoriya didn't know why he ran. He saw the blood on All Might's shirt, leaching the white, spreading and spreading. The world couldn't lose All Might. He was world symbol of peace. And he was Midoriya's personal hero. So he ran, his arms screaming in pain with every jolt of his feet hitting the ground. The warp gate appeared before could get there. But he also could not stop his momentum. And neither could they. He ran into it. Cold. Nightmare dark. Sour breeze. An explosion knocked him aside before the portal transported him away. Move out of the way, you piece of sheet. Katsuki? Where did he come from? Katsuki shoved Kurogiri away and held him to the ground. A sheet of ice spread out from behind him. Midoriya turned around as the ice froze Numu's right limbs. We heard from a little birdie that the League wanted to kill All Might. Shinso walked over. Obviously, we weren't going to let that happen. Shinso nodded to the kid he came with and oh my god, it's Todoroki Shudo, he's Endeavor's kid. If villains weren't literally trying to kill them, Midoriya would have asked him about his quirk. Shinso, your head is bleeding, are you okay? Shinso glared at him. Your arms look like my mom tried to boil moldy ramen in mud water, but no, I feel like sheet. Maybe you should sit down? You missed the entire meaning of sarcasm, Midoriya. Hey, Bakugu, where should I put her? Someone asked. I don't effing know, by the tree or something. The redhead was carrying Aruku. Her shirt was tied around her leg. Blood soaked through it. Aruku. Midoriya stumbled over, head started to swim. What happened to your leg? Her eyes opened slowly. She was silent for a moment, processing his words. Bone broke. Feel tired. She spoke slowly. I don't know much about blood loss, but you definitely should not sleep, the redhead said as he placed her on the grass. Oh, wait, I haven't introduced myself yet. The boy looked at Midoriya. My name's Kirishima. All Might had freed himself from Numu. Shigaraki said something to him, but Midoriya could not hear it. Suddenly, the Numu stood up from the portal. The ice on its arm and leg shattered, taking the body parts with it. How can it still move? Todoroki said. Muscles ungulate from the break and begin to grow. Not even a minute later and the arm and leg are completely regenerated. Was the quirk not shock absorption, then? I never said he only had one quirk. This is Numu's super regeneration. Shigaraki replied. Numu, retrieve Kurogiri. Numu was fast. He sprinted to Kurogiri and Katsuki with a forming fist. Katsuki wasn't fast enough to dodge that thing. Midoriya had to do something. A huge cloud of dust mushroomed from the collision. When the dust cleared, Katsuki was no longer on top of Kurogiri. Numu had taken his place. Katsuki. Several feet away from Kurogiri was a wall separating the sectors. There, All Might stood with an unconscious Katsuki in his arms. You saved him. Good job, hero. Shigaraki said. You hit me before you saved that kid. Why is violence for the sake of others heroic? You've probably killed a fair share of people, haven't you, All Might? Shigaraki stepped forward. I'm sure many of my people have saved others too. But does the media treat us with even an ounce of respect? We don't fit into their conventional role of heroes any more than you fit into villainy. Shigaraki scratched his neck. I'm mad, All Might. Hypocrites like you shouldn't determine what's good versus evil. All Might placed Katsuki down beside him. Kirishima ran up and carried him back to the others by the trees. He was waking up now, eyes dazed. Numu, Kurogiri, you go after All Might. I'll take care of the kids. Shigaraki headed towards them. Midoriya went for his battle stance. Struggled to flex the muscles of his arms, but it was as if his body had forgotten how. It only felt pain. Wind filled the air, pausing Shigaraki. All Might landed punch after punch onto Numu, but it didn't do any damage, despite how strong the punches were. What are you all waiting for? Shigaraki's directed his voice to the villains behind him. To the kids. Midoriya turned. The mob of villains that they'd forgotten about charged forward. Katsuki had gotten to his feet, his rabid hair the only thing showing what he'd just been through. Sparks flew off of his hands, a wicked smile grew over his face. Before Katsuki could do anything, ice shot from Todoroki's foot. What the F dash, half and half. Those were mine. This isn't a competition, Bakug. Midoriya darted between the two. He ran towards a frozen villain. The villain had an outstretched limb at the perfect level for stepping on. The moment his foot contacted the ice, it shattered. Midoriya planted his other foot onto the villain's unfrozen head. He jumped into the air. Midoriya landed on an unfrozen villain. He wrapped his legs around her head and leaned forward. She fell backwards into 3 other villains. Midoriya stood up. A sharp pain ripped through his arm. A villain had grabbed it with his 3 hands. Midoriya rolled his eyes. If you had 3 arms, why use them all for the same thing? It left the villain defenseless on his right. Midoriya threw his leg up and struck the villain in his temple. The hands let go and the villain collapsed unconscious to the ground. A different arm whipped past him. Todoroki's ice froze the owner to the ground, but the villain stretched it faster than Todoroki could freeze it. The hand grabbed Todoroki's torso and threw him into a tree. Midoriya ran to him. He had hit the tree trunk head first. Todoroki groaned, but was mostly unharmed other than a possible concussion. I'm fine, you didn't have to come here. He said, rising. There's frost all over you. I think you're overusing your quirk. I said I was fine, Midoriya. Todoroki said. His eyes glanced behind Midoriya. Turn around. Midoriya looked behind him. 3 villains had blocked them off from the others. Midoriya tried to understand their quirks. The woman had cloth-like fibers growing from her fingertips. He could use that to tie the other 2 up. Midoriya dashed forward, but before he could reach the woman, more villains arrived. Their eyes were a blank gray. These new villains started to attack the ones around them. Midoriya and Todoroki stood by the tree in confusion. Shinso walked through them with a sheet-eating grin on his face. We should leave. If one of those guys hits one of my guys, I'll lose control of them. The 3 of them moved away. Everywhere was mayhem. Villains littered the playing field like pawns in chess. Kirishima slid past them, feet digging tracks into the ground. Why is it that just a tap can break my hold on those goons? Shinso sighed. The villains he controlled wore twisted snarls and their eyes were no longer gray. At least they're not cornering us anymore. Midoriya replied. Given our injuries, this situation isn't much better. Todoroki said. Midoriya rolled his eyes. Plus ultra. Midoriya saw Numa fly into the dome's ceiling. Numa burst through it and soared into multiple clouds before disappearing from view. Everyone silently stared at All Might. The man's form was in the same position as when he punched Numa, fists stretching to the sky. Someone clapped softly. The other hero students followed. Soon, all of them applauded him as his fist came down to his heart. Back in my prime, I would have only punched him 5 times to get the same effect. All Might smiled sadly. This took me a little over 200. That's not possible. Shigaraki spoke. Numu was designed to be your equal, how did you? It's because he's All Might. Kirishima shouted. All Might never loses. Well then, Shigaraki, you wanted to kill me. Do you still think you can? This wasn't supposed to happen. Shigaraki mumbled while scratching his neck. He looked back at All Might. The pros aren't here yet. We can still win Kurogyri. From underneath the hand, Shigaraki's face twisted into a sadistic smirk. Shigaraki ran forward. Midoriya's eyes glanced between the 2. All Might didn't move. Shigaraki reached him and All Might pulled his arm back into a fist. A sickening crack filled the air as All Might punched Shigaraki's jaw. He flew through the air and hit the ground hard. The hand on his face had fallen off. Shigaraki's face was a mix of blue, grays and purple bruising, and his jaw hung swollen. Shigaraki growled. He got to his feet, but before he could run again, shots rang out. He collapsed with bullets tearing through his limbs. On the platform, a line of heroes stood. They were saved. Relief drained Midoriya's remaining adrenaline. He dropped to the ground and finally let himself breathe deeply. Kurogiri wrapped Shigaraki in a portal, protecting him from Snipe's gunfire. The two left while the rest of the league was apprehended. Cold surrounded Midoriya's arms and he breathed a sigh of relief. Todoroki and Shinso had taken a seat beside him. "You know you're an idiot, right?" Shinso stated. "How did you even do that to your arms? I never thought limbs could rest like that." Midoriya did his best attempt of a horrifically painful shrug. "Numa. Shigaraki." Midoriya realized that they should probably find help. Midoriya tried to stand but something resisted him. "I froze your arms to the ground. We'll wait for the paramedics to get here." Midoriya pouted. Shinso laughed at his expression. His eyes traveled over Midoriya's head and the smile slowly faded. "Sheet." Shinso got up and ran out of view. "Shinso? What's wrong?" "It's Iruku," he called back. "She's unconscious, I think. I can barely feel her pulse." Todoroki stood up. "I'll find an EMT." The minutes grew long. Midoriya grew restless under the ice. It was supposed to be cold, but he only registered a numb chill. He should have been more careful. It took a few weeks for all the scabs on his hand to go away after he punched the tree. It'd take months or even the rest of the year for his arms to recover from this. 8 people in navy blue uniforms ran over to them. The 4 in the rear roll gurneys. "Someone contact Chief. We have 2 15-year-olds with various fractures," the lead woman said. She knelt by Iruku. "Compound tibia fracture, bone visible. Lots of bleeding, an artery was likely punctured. She needs an emergency blood transfusion now. Chief said he's getting the ambulance ready." Another woman replied. "Do you know how she broke her leg?" she asked them. "Bakugu and Kirishima brought her here." Todoroki replied. A male EMT walked over to Midoriya. "Can you tell me what happened to you?" "I was fighting with Shigaraki. He had some kind of disintegration or decay quirk and grabbed my right arm. Then Numu grabbed my left arm and crushed the elbow and stepped on my right arm. Todoroki froze me to the ground." Midoriya said. "Smart kid. Muzan-san, tell Chief to get another skin graft prepared." "Another one? That's the 3rd one this month and it's been 1 day." The man nodded as she turned on the walkie-talkie. "Kid has comminuted fractures in his elbow and humerus. Probably some torn humeral ligaments, too. Could you unfreeze him?" Todoroki placed his hand down onto the ice. Steam sizzled and soon Midoriya laid in a pool of water. 3 EMTs immobilized his arms and hoisted him onto the gurney. The same happened with Iruku. Some EMTs stayed to treat Shinso and Todoroki. "Everyone here will go to the hospital, even if they are visibly uninjured," the lead woman told them. "We need to get the serious conditions out first." The gurney's movement lulled his brain. Midoriya heard chatter as he passed through the USA. It was tense chatter, but still posed as a white noise to his brain. He wanted to keep himself awake. Police or other EMTs might need to ask him questions still. But sleep felt like a brilliant idea. Besides, he was safe. He'd just take a quick nap and wake up when they reached the hospital. The ambulance doors slammed shut with him and Iruku inside. The EMTs bustled around them as they tested Iruku's blood and hooked up IVs. Midoriya's eyes drooped. The hospital was 20 minutes away. He'd take a quick nap and be ready for everyone's questions there. Eyes finally closed, Midoriya fell into a dreamless sleep. Midoriya was aware of his eyes first. The eyelids glued themselves to his eyes. Smell came next. The sterile smell of bleach burned through his sinuses. Midoriya felt something soft on him, a blanket maybe. Bright light burned through his eyelids. Midoriya slowly opened his eyes, but quickly closed them. The light outside was too bright to look at. Midoriya groaned softly. He heard movement by him. A hand fell on his shoulder. Izuku? Are you awake? Izuku! Give him some space. Hatsum-sensei. Midoriya groaned again. His arms ached. Mom? He asked without opening his eyes. It's me, sweetie. I'm here. The hand on his shoulder squeezed comfortingly. Midoriya opened his eyes. The light hurt, but he needed to see them. His mom was on his right while Mei and Hatsum-sensei stood to his left. They all looked worried. Have the others gotten here yet? His mom looked confused. The others? The woman said everyone would go to the hospital. Have they arrived yet? Honey, everybody else checked out days ago. Days? I was only asleep for a few minutes. Mom, how long was I out? Inko exchanged a look with Hatsum-sensei. It's been a little over a week. A week? I probably missed so much work and Aizawa said I'd be removed from the shadow program if my grades DRO. Izuku stopped panicking. Mei said, I brought your school work with me so we could work on it together. Midoriya sighed. What would he do without Mei? Midoriya craned his neck around to the table beside his bed. Various assortments of get-well cards and trinkets littered the table. We should go call the doctor. He'll want to know that you're awake. His mom said. Inko left the room, leaving him with Mei and Hatsum-sensei. I know you told me not to hurt myself, but I really didn't have a choice. I'm sorry. Hatsum-sensei sighed. Villains literally attacked you and yet here you are, apologizing to me. No one is blaming you for what happened, Midoriya. I still feel bad. That means you've learned something at least. Maybe next time you can think of a plan where you avoid injury. The door opened. His mom walked back in along with a man in a white coat. He smiled warmly at Midoriya. My name is Dr. Shujitsu Igaku. How are you feeling right now? Midoriya shrugged. My arms actually have feeling in them, so that's a good thing. They do hurt though. You may experience chronic pain in them from now on. The healing quirks here weren't strong enough to heal the bones all the way. Luckily, your arm didn't reject the skin graft. Midoriya looks down at his arms. A jagged splotch of discolored, hairless skin in the shape of a hand traveled up from his elbow to his shoulder. Other sections of scar tissue twisted down to his hands. The fractures needed surgery to fix. If you had continued your fighting, we may have not been able to do even that. Since you did stop, all you need is some physical therapy and your normal functions should come back. What about the pain? Midoriya asked. Dr. Shujitsu sighed. The injuries severely damaged your nerves. We can prescribe some painkillers, but that's about it. Nerves won't repair themselves. Midoriya leaned back into his bed. After what happened, of course he'd need physical therapy. It's amazing that he's not paralyzed. Lucky for you, Hatsum-san has agreed to being your therapist, so there won't be any additional costs. You can use the break room down the hall whenever you wish. Maybe a trip to the bathroom first. Hatsum-sensei and his mom laughed. After a bathroom break, Midoriya was directed to the gym. There wasn't much in the way of decorations, mostly people in casts trying to walk. He sat down at one of the tables. Take this, Midoriya-kun. Hatsum-sensei held out a stress ball. Squeeze it and hold. Midoriya took the ball. Squeezing was easy. His fingers didn't resist the action. After a few seconds of holding them closed, his hands started shaking. His fingers all of a sudden felt extremely weak. Midoriya let go of the stress ball. Try stretching out your fingers. Midoriya rolled his fingers along the joints. They popped as he unkinked them. He grabbed the stress ball again. Midoriya's fingers held longer but still felt sore when he released. They aren't going to be magically fixed after one session. I'll mix physical therapy in with our personal lessons. I just wanted you to regain control with your hands first. Why don't I leave you here to work on your other hand while I get you something to eat? Hatsum-sensei left the room. There was an open window to Midoriya's right. Birds chirped happily and tree leaves rustled in the breeze. Excuse me, are you Midoriya Izuku? Midoriya turned. A man stood in a black suit with a friendly smile. I'm Detective Tsukachi Naomasa. You are one of the few people on the front lines, so we need to ask you questions, if that's okay. Midoriya looked behind him to see another man. His body was emaciated and his suit hung off his body. Sure. I'm open to questions. Where did the warp gate send you? The shipwreck zone. I was there with Tsuyu and some other kid. How did you escape? I electrocuted the water with my gloves. Your gloves? Tsukachi scrunched his face in confusion. They shoot lightning. They were on me when I came in. They ran out of battery, though, so I can't show you how they work. Not that I would in here, since it's a hospital. It's fine, we believe you. Tsukachi laughed. Midoriya, you are in general education, correct? Midoriya was surprised when the other man spoke up. His voice was strangely familiar despite never having met the man. Oh, yes, I'm in Gen Edition. I'm shadowing the heroes. And you fought the leader. Yeah, that's right. Midoriya sighed. I was in trouble at the end there. If All Might hadn't appeared then, I probably wouldn't be here. I didn't realize how little charged the glove store. Why didn't you just use your quirk? The man asked. Well, so. Midoriya sighed again. I don't have one. I'm quirkless. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, but I'm not going to quit. My dream is to be a hero and nothing will stop that. The man looked rather surprised. You ran to help All Might despite not having a quirk or support gear? Ah, did All Might tell you about that? Midoriya scratched his head. I guess it does sound stupid when you put it like that. But I couldn't just leave, you know. I had to help. The man is silent for a moment. I think it was really brave of you. Midoriya smiled widely. Thank you, sir. Midoriya-kun, I got some tsunamono. Your mom wanted to check you out soon. Hatsum-sensei placed the bowl down in front of him. She looked up at the detectives. Who are you? We were just asking Midoriya about the USJ for the investigation. We can leave now. The two stood. The man's eyes lingered on Midoriya, but when Midoriya tried to meet his eyes, the man looked away. He hadn't gotten the man's name. We can leave after this. Midoriya said as he shoveled the tsunamono into his mouth. Apparently, 1 week of being unconscious left a person very hungry. After Midoriya finished eating, Hatsum-sensei worked with him more. His arms felt sore, and they ached from his scars. He was in the car with his mom now. The road passed by in a blur of color. His eyes didn't focus on anything out there. He was too tired to really look. Hey, Mom? He asked. Yes, Izuku? She replied. Can I invite my friends over for dinner tonight? They haven't seen me in a week. That sounds like a great idea, sweetie. They can help you with your schoolwork too. Why don't you tell them now? Midoriya opened up his friends' group chat. Losers Squad group chat. Hatsum May is the best. At 14:56. Hey, I'm awake. Damn it. Hatsum May is the best. Has changed their name to Midoriya. Midoriya at 14:58. Anyway, I'm not dead. Do you guys want to come over for dinner? Mom is making katsudon. Personified insomnia at 1500 hours. I'm down. You should sleep. Midoriya at 15:01. Irony much. Been asleep for a week but thanks. Human battery at 15:04. Yu-chan say she's down. Also me too. Midoriya at 15:04. Aruku is with you? Human battery at 15:05. Yeah, her apartment isn't big enough for the wheelchair, so she's spending nights here. Midoriya at 15:06. She's in a wheelchair? Human battery at 15:06. Don't worry, she's fine. Hatsum Tai is here at 15:07. Izuku, if you don't want me to be in your phone, then you should make a password. Also, im here open up. Midoriya at 15:07. Im not there? How did you get to my house so fast? Hatsum Imai is here at 15:08. The magic. And my mom is a hell driver. Personified insomnia at 15:09. Wait, Midoriya, you don't have a password. Midoriya at 15:10. Betrayal never comes from an enemy. Hatsum Mei is here at 15:11. That's why it's called Betrayal Izuku. Midoriya sighed. His friends were a handful. They said they'll be there. His mom squealed in delight. It's been so long since I've been a host. Do you think they'll like the katsudon? Everyone loves your katsudon, Mom. Mei stood at the door as Midoriya got out of the car. She had a bright smile on her face. Hatsum-sensei stood next to her. "We met again, Midoriya-kun," Hatsum-sensei said while rubbing Midoriya's hair. "I brought some tools so we can fix the gloves," Mei said cheerfully. She held out a large duffel. "Wait, didn't you just come from the hospital? Where did you get those?" "Mei has tools everywhere, even in my car, which she's going to clean up once she gets home, right, Mei?" Hatsum-sensei sent her daughter a pointed look. Mei rubbed her hair sheepishly. "Well then, let's go inside now. Taniko-senpai, will you help me cook dinner?" Inko and Taniko walked to the kitchen. Mei grabbed Midoriya's arm and pulled him into the living room. They disassembled parts of the gauntlets and recharged the battery. Mei pulled out some wires. "I'm going to add a resistor. That way the discharge will only be a fraction of the total battery and should give you a few more uses per hand." "That sounds perfect." The doorbell rang. Midoriya walked to the front door as the chiming music played. Shinso was on the other side of the door. He had a small bandage over his forehead. "Your arms don't look like sheet," he stated. "The doctors are good at what they do, I guess. Come in." Midoriya moved aside. Mei instantly started a conversation with him. Shinso looked tense at first, but slowly his shoulders eased downward. Tenso and Aruku came next. True to word, Aruku sat in a wheelchair with her legs supported in a cast. "I was really lucky, apparently," Aruku said. "I have AB blood type, so it was easy for them to get me a blood transfusion." Aruku looked down. "My leg was really messed up. It probably won't be healed until after the sports festival." "That's terrible," Midoriya said. "Aruku would have done so well." Aruku shrugged. "I kind of deserve it." She sighed. "While I was in the ruin zone, this villain attacked us. I wanted to stop him and I used my quirk and..." Aruku breathed deeply. "I never want to do that again. I've wanted to be a hero for so long, but that was so real. I don't know if I want to do that for my job." "It's okay if you're unsure now. You still have 3 more Midoriya." He closed his mouth. Aruku's hair shielded her face. "That man, Shigaraki, said something about heroes being just as violent as villains. I hurt that man with his own mind, left him unconscious on a pile of rocks." Aruku clenched her fist. "I'm no better than he was. I can't be a true hero like this." "But you can," Midoriya said. Aruku finally looked up at